What's good, podcast fam? I know you're not used to seeing me during the week, but this is more of a spontaneous live podcast. I'm here with a wonderful man that I can hope to get to know tonight, Mr. Bryan Parkerson. He is a filmmaker and a podcaster himself. Introduce yourself, Brian.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? My name is Bryan Parkerson. Like you said, I'm a podcast host. Have a show called That Other Interview Show. Um, I interview actors, authors, filmmakers, directors, just people in entertainment in general. And I'm also a filmmaker. Currently working on a new movie. We'll be discussing tonight.
All right. So, man, how you doing tonight, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm excited to be here. By the way, that countdown was really nice. when that
Oh, yeah,
started, I'm
man.
like, that's really epic. I like that a lot.
Yeah, man. The perks of StreamYard. Perks of StreamYard. Invest in it. $25 a month.
Oh, really? It's only $25.
Oh yeah, man. Only $25. You can put your own custom video clips in there, your own branding. Like this overlay is something that I did myself. You can interact with it, people in the comments. Yeah, man, just it's pretty nice. StreamYard, that was a shameless plug, so I'm gonna need my money up front.
I might actually look into it. When I started my podcast, it was one of the platforms that was recommended to me by Brian Keene, actually. And
Right.
for those of you not familiar, Brian Keene is a horror author. He's written a ton of books, and really awesome writer and really awesome guy as well. Um, he suggested, because there's a free version of Streamyard, isn't there?
Yeah, the only thing is I think it limits you to how many hours you think get like up to 20 hours of storage. And I think you can only stream out to one platform live. I'm not sure.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
20
like
hours, I'd be in trouble.
yeah, but with the I mean with the $25 version, you get up to 250 hours of storage of a recording storage. And if you're a baller, you got $50. You can get like the professional account, which you can do the multicam. If you have a multicam setup, do that. The same perks up to 10 live participants.
Oh,
So
wow. Can you imagine a multicam setup and this would be so frustrating when you're trying to interview somebody. Like they have like that. You remember in the original Matrix, they had that one scene where Neo's like, dodging the bullets and he's doing the backwards thing. And then like the camera, there's multiple
oh
cameras
yeah,
surrounding him. Like imagine you get somebody on your show and they have a multicam set up like that. And the cameras are just constantly rotating around your guest the entire
oh oh yeah, but like
You imagine how distracting that would be? It'd be impossible, man.
yeah, well yeah, someone might get hit upside the head with the camera,
Oh man,
but
dude, that would be a fun like an April Fool's. Like if I had just like an exorbitant amount of money to set something like that up, I would probably do like an April Fool's broadcast where, like, I would just set up like a multicam thing like that and get on somebody's show and the cameras just constantly follow me around. So like you just see you just see every angle of me the entire show. I'm like, good luck, man. Just try to interview me now.
but yeah, man. But let's go ahead and get into some of these questions I got for you.
Yeah, brother, what you got, man?
All right. So you said you're a podcaster as well. You mind telling us a little bit about the podcast that you do and the
Yeah,
history of it?
yeah, sure. So I started it in October. The concept I started October of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I had always wanted to do a podcast. I just never really had a what I considered a good idea or an original idea. And in fact, it was a Friday. I was sitting at my desk, and let me back up a little bit. So I was born in the '80s. I'm a '90s kid, and back in the '90s, there was a show on TNT called Monster Vision,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hosted by a guy named Joe Bob Briggs. Now, Joe Bob Briggs is a character. The guy's real name is John Bloom. He's actually a writer, and he's got and now of course there's the Last Drive-In on Shutter. But in the late '80s, he did a show called Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater, and then that ended in like the early '90s, and then he actually went over to TNT and took over as host of Monster Vision. I had completely forgotten about this show, and I randomly ran across it on YouTube, and I was like, "Oh wow!" And being near my 40s now, I it just really hit that nostalgia that I've had going on. And so I was like, okay. And I just started watching it and watching it and watching it. Well, it turns out John Bloom is actually on Cameo. So I started sending him some messages on Cameo. And as I was talking to him, I found myself wanting to learn more about him as a person.
Right.
And it dawned on me that's my podcast right there. Why don't I interview actors, authors, and directors in horror? Because I love horror. That's where my
Oh
heart
yeah,
is,
man.
cinema.
Second favorite genre, man. Second favorite genre. We're gonna get along just
So
fine.
yeah, man. So we got something to connect with right there, dude. We could spend 3 hours talking about horror. Um, I realized like that's my show, man. I could interview actors, authors, and directors in horror, but instead of just focusing on their careers, why don't I find out who they are as human beings? Because nobody ever
Right.
does that, you know. So I bounced that idea off of Bryan. Bryan liked the idea. He encouraged me to pursue it. He connected me with a guy named Matt Wildawson. Shout out to Matt Wildawson. He has become a really good friend of mine. He's a graphic designer. He's a podcaster himself. He has a show called Grindcast that comes out every Monday. It's hilarious. These guys, they just they're just goofy and they're funny and like you'll laugh. I mean, it's just one of those podcasts you sit down and for the next hour, 2 hours, you're just gonna laugh. But he and I became really good friends, and he kind of walked me through, setting everything up and getting the equipment I needed, and I got the podcast started. And I did my first episode in December, and it's just been
Right.
going, man. I've actually got a backlog of episodes right now that need to be edited. So it's recently sort of expanded. It's gone beyond the scope of horror at this point. We're talking
Right.
off air. I'm gonna have to do like just a complete rebrand. Which is fine, man. That's a good problem to have. I'm
Oh,
getting to talk
yeah,
to some really amazing people. But my heart ultimately still with horror, man. Like every time I get to talk to one of my heroes, like last month I got to interview Scott Reiniger. For 20, check this out, man. For 23 years. My favorite film has been the 1978 Dawn of the Dead. And I can't begin to tell you how much of a privilege it was to speak not only to one of the stars of the film, the guy that plays Roger, but to talk to this man for over an hour and get to tell him the story, the journey. I had to go on to
Right.
see the movie. It's a fun story. But also to be able to tell him, like, this movie changed my life. It's part of the reason I've pursued filmmaking today because, it just has such an impact on my life. There's not many people get to do that. And I was so, I just can't, there's no words to describe how excited I was, how humbled I felt by that. And it was really cool too. I mean, he was very humble about it, and he was very
Right.
struck by it. And, man, that'll always be one of my fondest memories, just getting to sit down and talk to this guy. And I try to not, fanboy out, but sometimes
It's
you just
hard.
can't help it. Yeah,
I
sometimes
mean,
you just can't help
it's
it.
hard.
And in that situation, I had to. There was no way I couldn't tell him. I mean, that movie had such an impact on my life. I had to tell him. I had to let him know, like, look, man, something that you were a part of, something that you created 23 years later has impacted my life to the point that I'm changing what I do.
Right.
It affected me that deeply. And I love that movie. I love it. I own multiple, like every version of it, every release of it I don't own, I try to buy. There's actually a 4K Blu-ray that came out in the UK that I want to get my hands on. It's got a little book and everything, but it's just hard to find. There's also some older editions of it that I want to find. I'd love to find the original VHS that I used to have. But
And you said the 1978 Dawn of the Dead, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was thinking of the one that came out in the 60s. It wasn't Dawn of the Dead, but I think it was in that same.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah. So Night of the Living Dead came out.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. So, funnily enough, that since you bring that up, Jason, I saw, for better or worse, man, I saw so many horror films back in the late 80s, early 90s as a kid.
Right.
That, I mean, like, I remember seeing The Lost Boys back then.
I love that. I love that movie.
I remember The Howling. I remember there was one that was like this like anthology thing. I don't remember the name of it, but I saw it on Amazon Prime recently, and I actually called my mom and told her, like, Mom, I'm watching this, and I remember seeing this back when I was a kid. For better or worse, man. Like I got to see those films as a kid, and they had such a deep impact on me. But the first movie I really remember, the first horror film I really remembered like impacting me and just sticking with me was not Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 version, and I fell in love with zombies at that point. Now I was so young, I didn't really understand the whole concept of directors and producers, and like I didn't know who George
Yeah.
Romero was. I just know I liked that movie, and then in like '92, it may have even been '91. I saw the 1990 Night of the Living Dead and loved that film. But it wasn't
Yeah, but it
until
just
say again.
I say it just doesn't hold up to the original. I'll let you get back what you're saying, but the reason why I love the 1968 version of Night of the Living Dead is because not only is it an entertaining film, but if just like Dawn of the Dead 1978, it's a commentary on society. That's what I love. That's why when people say, "Well, it's good for a horror movie," like whenever somebody say like, "Well, for a horror movie or for a children's movie," like that's kind of disrespecting it because you're saying that these films can't be smart and entertaining.
Mhm.
And I just love Night of the Living Dead because it was a commentary on 1968 America,
Oh yeah, it
and
absolutely was. Yeah.
then Dawn of the Dead, it was a commentary on consumerism.
Yep. Yep. Very
So
much so. That was George's thing, man. You know what's interesting is with Night of the Living Dead, with Dwayne Jones playing the lead, uh, it actually that George wasn't intentionally trying to say anything with that. It actually turned out that he would say in interviews like he just was the best actor amongst our group of friends.
oh,
And
really?
yeah, man, what a talent that man was. I wish I could have met him. He died in '88 of a heart attack.
Ah,
But
damn.
it's really interesting talk. When there's an interview with him that exists and it's audio, and it was done the year he died actually. And he talks about being in a cafe with some of the students. He was a college professor, and the Night of the Living Dead is playing on television behind him, and it takes a while for the kids to notice that it's him in the movie, and then suddenly they suddenly want to. He never really went out of his way to talk about the movie, man. He sort of tried to keep himself separate from it. I'm not really sure why. I just don't. Dwayne. I actually feel we're disrespectful calling him Dwayne. Mr. Jones was just. I don't think fame was important to him. I think
Right.
he was an artist and he was an academic, um, and I think he really really loved and appreciated the art of film and the art of theater, and so I don't think it really mattered to him any kind of notoriety or fame with the movie, But I mean, can you imagine being the star of one of the most iconic films in American culture, and you just fly under the radar intentionally, like you don't really want to be, known, that, like you're perfectly content nobody knowing you're in that movie. I
I
I, I
mean, for me personally, I feel like I would be the type of person because, like I said, Disney. I know y'all kind of fudged it up with my boy Finn, but if you ever want the first Black Jedi, I'm here. I'm here. Like, and I won't ask for no fame. I won't ask for a lot of money. Just make me a Black Jedi. Just make me a Black Jedi, and it's cool. You can even kill me. Just kill me in a cool way. Just cool. Like, don't Mace Windu me. Like, give me an important role. Give me an important role.
oh man, dude, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a part of the Star Wars
Oh,
franchise.
I love, man. If I love Star Wars, like even though we going on a little bit of a tangent, but even though like Star Wars not in the best of states, my to this day I will fight people. I will fist fight babies and die on this hill. Knights of the Old Republic is still one of the best Star Wars games ever made, and still has one of the best Star Wars protagonist slash antagonist in Darth Revan. That is by far one of the best characters in
Yeah,
Star Wars.
it's a great game, man.
And
I wish more people uh, had the opportunity to make a film.
right.
There are filmmakers out there who would tell you that making a film has ruined film for them. Like they can't really enjoy a film anymore.
Oh
I've
yeah.
I've actually had the opposite experience. Um, I was watching. So back in the '60s, there was a movie called Tora Tora Tora. It was about the attack on Pearl Harbor, and I had seen that movie. I think the last time I saw it was probably like 2006, maybe. Um, but I watched it again. I watched most of it again as a filmmaker
Mm-hmm.
now, and I was so in awe of what they did with that movie. I mean, like when you make it, I mean, even a small, low budget picture is so much work, and there's so much coordination involved, and so much time, and to look at something like that, like I just was in awe. I mean, just all the cinematography, the acting, the screenplay was amazing. Like, all the locations. I was just so blown away by what they did with that movie. And you look at any Star Wars film. I mean, like, dude, the amount of work that goes into. I mean, even if you don't like the
Oh, a
film,
lot of work.
just to, I mean, watch it from a filmmaker perspective and appreciate what they did. I mean, like even episodes 1, 2, and 3. I'm not the biggest fan of those, but you have to really be in awe of what they pulled off. I mean, I can't imagine directing something like that. It's got to be. I mean, you have to have a massive team of people to pull something like that off. And just and even imagine being an actor, man. Like, and you're just standing in something that's basically non-existent.
Oh, and
You're looking at a green screen and an X, or like a pole with an arrow pointing to it. Like it's just incredible what Hollywood can pull off these days. And I really wish people could start watching movies from a filmmaker's perspective versus this person says Jedi Fallen Order was good gameplay
is
wise, but I couldn't get into the story.
man, look, I wish I could see who said that. Look, I don't know how you couldn't get into that story. I'm trying not to spoil it, but that last, I know you love horror, Brian. That I don't know if you ever played Jedi Fallen Order,
I played
but
a little bit of the beginning of it.
when I'm telling you right now, the very end is uh, a straight up horror movie.
Dude,
Like,
I'll tell you, man. This is the first podcast I've talked about Star Wars on. It's interesting. Do you remember the series of books? I need to go back and read them. I've got one of them on my
which
Kindle.
ones?
It
I
was
can.
they were the horror books. Like one of them shows like a stormtrooper helmet hanging from a hook, and it's and I think there was zombie. I'm gonna look it up, man. We live in an age
I
of
say I'm right there with you. Hold on, give me a second.
Star Wars, and there was actually a young adult novel back in the '90s that was a zombie
That
book.
well, the one you're talking about is called Death Troopers.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there was
Oh,
one that had a
what was it?
holographic cover. Um, and if I could ever find it, man, I'm gonna buy it. Um, let's see, Star Wars zombie novel.
Like the thing about Star Wars, like I was always Star Wars. I'm pretty sure Star Trek is good. I just could never really get into Star Trek. But uh, the thing I liked about Star Wars is that everything feels lived in. Like the world feels lived in.
Yeah,
Everything has that dirty, grungy look. Like there's millions of different dialects of like alien languages, different alien races. I didn't really care for the space politics, but I will give the prequels this. I know I'll be shitting on the prequels a lot on my podcast, but it set up good ideas and it spawned good shows. Like without them shitty prequels, we would never got Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the TV show. We
yeah.
would have never got The Mandalorian. We, we probably, yeah,
Obi-Wan
but we would
Kenobi,
never,
Han Solo. I mean, like all
yeah.
the. I gotta tell you, man, this is one of the most dangerous topics you can broach on a
Oh
podcast.
yeah, no,
You can get ripped to shreds if you're on the wrong side because there are people who are incredibly passionate about Star Wars and what Disney's done with it. And in my head, I'm going like, I probably better not take a position right now. Like, because like I mean, honestly, I really enjoyed the new films. I thought they were well done. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the stories.
I put it this way: they were entertaining, but just for me being a huge Star Wars fan. Now, The Last Jedi, I did like because I finally liked that they were calling the Jedi on their bullshit because the Jedi were actually bad for the galaxy. And I'm like, oh, they're going to go that route. But then they went back. I think it was okay. So first it was J.J. Abrams. in
Mhm.
The Force Awakens,
Yeah.
then Ryan Johnson, and then they went back to J.J. Abrams. And J.J. Abrams brought his own story in. What I thought was going to happen was that they would continue Ryan Johnson's story of how he was basically saying, like, he was taking a chance with, you know, killing the past
Mhm.
and focusing on the future.
Yeah.
But Star Wars fans don't want that
Well,
because
you can't destroy an entire expanded universe, man. You can't do that.
well, it's not destroying, but it's like, you know, new text saying that the Jedi weren't always good, and I've always liked that idea that the Jedi, if you look at it, the Jedi weren't really better than the Sith. They were just more civil about it,
Mhm.
and I was enjoying like the whole thing with Snoke. I was enjoying um people did not like when Luke threw the lightsaber away. Me, I thoroughly enjoyed it because he was saying, "No, I'm the Jedi. They were not good. Like they were not good for the galaxy. In
Yeah.
the end, they were technically the downfall. They were the cause of the downfall of the Republic because let's be honest, if they would never took Anakin in, like Yoda and everybody was strongly suggesting not to,
Yeah, that's a good point.
that that would have never happened. But yeah, man, like Star Wars, it's such a slippery slope. I wish that some of these legend characters would be canon. I'm glad Thrawn is canon because Thrawn is just simply amazing. Like he still is one of the best trilogy book trilogies I've read.
Mhm.
Please make Star Killer canon. I mean, y'all saying that all these other Jedi's are were left alive, like in between the episode 3 and 4. Just make Star Killer canon. He was so cool.
You know,
Um,
it's interesting that Star Wars is uh, such a complex story and world and universe. Like you can actually garner different perspectives. Like one of my favorite things is there was a fan theory that came out about Jar Jar Binks actually being the behind everything. I thought that was kind of humorous. But have you ever heard the theory or the view of things that actually like the Empire wasn't really bad, but it was actually the Rebel Alliance. They were just a bunch of terrorists. They blew up a Death Star. They did all these they were terrorists, and the Empire was trying to keep order in the galaxy. Like I don't agree with that, but
yeah, I
but it,
can't, I can't agree. Like
it's an
after
interesting thought
seeing,
though.
I mean, okay, the way that I see it, because it brings up interesting conversations. Because okay, say if me and you we're living in the time of the Empire, right?
Mhm.
We were born in the time of the Empire, so that the Empire is all we know. So to an outside view, it could be we look like terrorists, terrorists trying to overthrow the empire. That's what it could look like because the empire is all we know, and that's why I'm glad in Obi Wan we got to see scenes of people that grew up with believing in the empire's ideology, saying that the empire is good and whatnot. When in actuality, the empire was killing, like they were killing planets,
Oh
not
yeah,
just like physically but environmentally, which is why I've always liked Star Wars. Like some aspects of Star Wars I've liked because all these planets they have their different cultures and values, and I thought it was kind of cool to see. Oh, stormtroopers are basically cops. Like that's what they basically are, just military police. I thought, like, even though it's something simple, that was cool to me because I've never seen that. I've only seen them not not hit anything with those blasters.
yeah.
So like
Imagine if they could hit
stop.
something though. It'd be
Oh no,
really
well yeah, like I said, I don't know why they explain why they went from clone troopers to stormtroopers. I like that is the dumbest. That was the dumbest decision y'all ever made. Because if you remember the Clone Wars TV show, if you ever watched it, they were accurate. They were extremely accurate.
Yeah. Did you ever play? It was an Xbox game on the original Xbox. It was
Republic Commando.
Republic Commander. Dude, that game was good.
Oh yeah, that game is good because I think you played as. I want to say you played as what
You were
squadron
you
was
were
it?
clone troopers.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was a certain squad that
Oh
they
yeah,
actually,
yeah. It was like a famous clone
yeah.
squad. But yeah, that they did it good. I mean, imagine if they remade that game today. They really should. I wish they would. That would be a great Star Wars game to bring back out. But it's funny, man. Talking about this, you're bringing out the podcaster in me a little bit because part of me, like, you know, I want to ask you: have you ever considered filmmaking? And to go a step further with that question, have you ever considered maybe seeing if you can raise the funds to make a Star Wars fan film?
Oh no, like for people that know me, I one of my passions is I want to be a filmmaker, but the way that America set up with schooling, it's kind of hard to afford film school. But I've
I didn't go
always,
to. I was in film school for 12 hours, man.
oh,
I'm
hey,
not joking. I'm
I'm
not
gonna have
joking.
to ask you for I'm gonna have to ask you for pointers just because I've always just dreamed of making my own characters and possibly do a Star Wars fan. I would love to do a Star Wars fan film. And like the thing for me growing up, um, Static Shock, it was like Static Shock was my favorite superhero because he was a representation of me. He was a black kid. He was a black kid in a black neighborhood, and I was like, man, I want to see more stories like that. But I started looking around. There aren't many stories with people of color, like back in the day. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make my own characters. That's why I'm in the process of making my own comic because we don't have many people of color as heroes. Like we're starting to now, like Kamala Khan, Miles Morales. Then you over at Milestone, you got Icon, Hardwire. Who else? Static, of course.
Mhm.
So Image Comics has Spawn. So like that's what I want to. I want to give everybody a voice, and not just my like black people. I want to give the LGBT community a voice. I want to give shoot even like just even white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. I want my brand to be very diverse. Like because if I do make it big, let's knock on some wood. If I do make it big, I want to give other aspiring artists their chance to actually show what they can do
Yeah,
on the like in 20 pages how they can tell the story because everybody has a story to tell.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, and see, it's interesting you say what you just said because so I have a small production company I started called Dawn Journey Productions,
Right.
and you are exactly what I'm starting this company for. Um, I mean, I want to make films, but if I never make another film in my entire life, the legacy I want to leave. Here's what I'm trying to create. I'll just give you the rundown. Um, when I started pursuing filmmaking, one of the things I was in search of was a mentor, someone that could answer my questions and just be available to me. And I found that in a guy named Hilton Ariel Ruiz, he's been making films since the '90s. And I was very fortunate. The podcast has been an amazing networking tool, and it's allowed me to
Yeah.
connect with people. But your local film communities are amazing tools as well. There's a plethora of books and YouTube videos and stuff out there, but there's nothing quite like having somebody you can talk to. What I want to create. So when you're pursuing this, all you hear this consistent message that this industry is incredibly difficult to get into. It's incredibly difficult to get into. You just hear that over and over and over. And so I began asking myself the question, why? Why? Why is it hard to get into?
Right.
Why does it need to be that way? So what I want to do is I want to create a place, a space where people who want to be filmmakers, who want to get into the industry, because filmmaking is very accessible today, uh, it, but quality filmmaking is not. It still requires money. Anybody can get out there with their smartphone and make a decent looking film, but your sound may be terrible.
Shoot.
So
What's his name? I think it's what's it? David Cross. No, it's Steven Soderbergh. How do you say his last name? You know what I'm talking about. But he does all this. He's been doing all his movies on iPhone, and they still
yeah,
look really
yeah,
good.
and I can give you a rundown on how to do it, like what you need. But what I want to do, man, is with my company, I want, when somebody's like, I want to make a movie, the first thing they think to themselves is not, well, how am I going to do this? The first thing I want them to think is, let me call Dawn Journey Productions. Here's what we're going to do. You'll talk to me or you'll talk to somebody on my team. We're going to have studio space available. We're going to have equipment available to you. I'm going to say to you, like, look, we like your if your project falls within the values of my company, we will help you make it. If it's a project we want to take on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you a veteran director mentor. This person is going to be with right next to you the entire process. They're going to be your AD. They're going to be available to you by email, by phone. Like, this is your mentor. They're there to help you and teach you the ropes. I
Right.
don't care whether or not you've been to film school. We're going to help you make a quality movie from A to Z, man, up through like distribution. You know,
Oh wow.
but I also want it to be a safe place.
Right.
Um, you know, there are a lot of things that go on in Hollywood that are wrong. And I want to create an environment where every person, no matter who they are, can safely and effectively make a film and be known for who they are as a human being and appreciated and respected as a person and get to see their dreams come true. Because I'm telling you, Jason, all of the work that goes into pre-production of a film, no matter how big it is, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time and it's a lot of investment and it requires a lot of people. I don't care how big of a filmmaker you are. I don't care how talented you are. You're nothing without your team. Nothing.
Right.
Your team is the most important thing you have, and you stand on their shoulders. Every ounce of success you have as a filmmaker, 99% of it is because of your team. There has to be some talent on your part, but dude, like Steven Spielberg, as amazing of a director as he is, if he doesn't have a team behind him, he's nothing.
Oh yeah.
That applies to every filmmaker, myself included. I've been blessed with an amazing team, but I forgot where I was going with that. I want to make filmmaking safe and accessible to everyone, quality filmmaking, and I don't 100% yet know how I'm going to get there, but things are growing. Like we've been gaining momentum in the company. I've got a really amazing team, but I remember what I was going to say now. All of the work that goes into pre-production on a film, the first day you're on set and you're standing behind that camera and you're just surrounded by actors and crew and you're looking at the monitor on the camera and it's just like it's magic. It's literally magic. I remember I kept saying to my AD Scott, I was like, Scott, we're making a movie, man. I just kept saying that. And it's constantly in your mind, like we're making a movie right now. Like those are actors right there. Those are crew right there, man. Like that guy's holding a boom mic, like it's magical. I want everyone to experience it. Like, dude, like I want you to know what that feels like,
Right.
and brother, you can hit me up anytime. I'll answer any questions you have. I will do everything I can to help you make your movie. If you want to be a filmmaker,
Amen.
man, my goal will be to help you do that because you're
Amen.
just talking to you in the short time I've talked to you, man. You're a very brilliant guy and you're an intelligent man and you seem very talented and you have a passion. That passion is what's going to take you places. So if I can do anything to help you achieve your dream, dude, I'm there. I want to stand next to you on that for sure.
Amen. I really appreciate it. Like,
Yeah, man,
but
absolutely. Because we're a family, dude. Like that's the thing. Like there's so much competition in filmmaking, and there doesn't need to be. We're all trying to achieve the same goal, and we can all pool our own resources together and help everyone achieve their dreams. You
yeah,
know?
and see, and the reason why, because people always wonder why, you know, the film industry, what is, I'm not even going to say the film industry, just high value jobs in general are so competitive. And I tell people it roots in, like human nature. We are just some most like a lot of humans, it's for themselves. When really, because I tell people all the time, do you know that if every person, okay, let's just say we do this, right? Because I thought about this a lot. Say if one we do like a lottery, right? Like everybody has a chance
Mhm.
to win money, right? If every person in America alone sent one person $1, you know how many billionaires and millionaires that we can make in just a day?
That's interesting.
But
Yeah.
but you know what's so crazy is they put laws in place so we cannot do that, because if we had too many millionaires, we break the economy.
Yeah. Uh,
but but like yeah, man, like the same goal that you have is the same goal that I have because I feel like me, I went through various states of depression in my life, and podcasting helped me get out that funk. Books helped me, like comics helped me get out that funk. Anime, movies. So I want to be able to. That's why I started this podcast, really, because if I can make somebody laugh by just me and my friends being stupid and helping them get out that funk, that means more to me than somebody doing this just for donations or just for money. Yeah, money would be nice. I would love to make money. Send
yeah.
me some money, but I also want to make people happy because that's one thing that people forget doing this is that when you do things, you have to have a passion for it. And me,
Yeah.
like I said, if you even my girlfriend said, "Dang, you're gonna do another podcast this week?" Like, yeah, I got to. Like, I got to keep this going because I'm not consistent. I'm gonna fall off on it, and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna start losing the passion for it. And I don't ever want to lose passion. That's why I've been sitting on this comic idea for years. I always go back to it. I just don't know what to do with it. But like I'm not putting it down.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanna, like I said, I had kind of the same idea as you was having a production company or just an LLC. An LLC, it was gonna be like Allegiant Media or something like that. And and the reason why I would choose that name is just because everybody, or no, it was Alliance Media. Everybody is an alliance. We all a family. We all help each other out. And people like Steve have been a godsend because he's put me in touch with so many awesome people, such as yourself. Uh, I interviewed Larry Hankin, amazing guy. Was actually acting in the show that I love to this day. Did not know he was in Barry. And
Yeah, dude. I was actually, you know, it's funny. I was watching Barry the other day. I had never seen him before, and Larry showed up, and I was like, "Is that Larry Hankin?" And I was like, and I looked up, like, "Yeah, that's Larry. He did a good
yeah,
job in that
that's
part, man."
man, yeah, like and like you said, sometimes you just can't help but to geek out. And I
Yeah.
was telling him, man, I loved you in that scene. Like that was probably one of the funniest scenes from the first season.
Did you see him
And
in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? He played a character named Doobie. He was a cab driver.
I did not, but I did not, but he told me a funny story about him and Lucille Ball. I, I look at her a completely different way now, not in a bad way, but I just think it's so funny. But yeah, man, like this what I love doing this. I love chopping up with people. Like
Yeah.
even I know y'all this isn't an interview, but like I like doing it because it just feels natural, having natural conversations with people.
Yeah.
And like my question to you is um so when it came to your film company,
Mhm.
what uh what was your inspiration like for the name itself?
I'm so glad you asked that, man, because I get to tell my Dawn of the Dead story. Listen, before I answer that, let me say something to you. I really, you strike me as a really amazing person, Jason, and I love your drive and I love your passion and I love, um, you're just awesome, dude. Like I really want to encourage you. You're really awesome, and I'm so blessed to have gotten to talk to you tonight. Like I just have a heart for people like yourself, and you're really going to do amazing things, man. And anything I can do to try to help you with that, I want to help. You know, like I want to see you make your movie, dude. I want to see your comic. Like, don't ever give up on your dreams. Never give up on your dreams, man. Like
I know,
your
trust me.
yeah, your passion, your drive, dude. Like it's going to take you far. Just kudos to you, man. Seriously, I just wanted to say that. Like I wanted to offer you some encouragement. Like you're awesome, bro. You're
Oh
awesome.
man, I appreciate it, but don't worry. These people in my job, they more encouragement enough because like I don't want to be like y'all. But
Yeah,
like yeah,
and
man.
it's all about serving people ultimately. You know,
Oh
and
yeah, man.
that's I look at it as like a Philippians 2 mindset. You know, where you know in the Bible it talks about looking at other people is more important than yourself. You know, and even going so far as like their
Right.
well being is more important than yours, or even having like you know 1 Corinthians 13 mindset where it talks about you know Paul in that discusses um, that if he does anything without love, it's a waste of time. You know, he could do
Yeah.
these amazing things, and if there's no love behind it, it's just it's pointless, right? So that's I try to adopt that in my own life, man. I really like to encourage people, and I really like to see people just see their dreams come true, man. So like, I'm really excited for you, dude. And you can send me a message or text me anytime, and
Yeah,
I'll
man.
try to help you as much as I can, brother.
Man, I appreciate you too. And what's so crazy is people, because I tell people all the time, like somebody always asks you that question. Well, what's your faith? What's your religion? I tell people I'm agnostic, and they look at me like, you don't believe in God. I like, no, no, no. You agnostic is you believe in God, but you don't like. There's no middleman. Is what I basically had to tell them. And they says, oh, so you're atheist. I'm like, no, no, no. But like I tell people, because people are surprised when I say I'm agnostic, because people say that I have a very like my outlook on life. I tell people I'm more spiritual than religious.
Mhm.
That's why I believe putting good energy into the world and into people, because that good energy you put in, you receive it back. Because like I always say that whoever made us, like God, like I believe that there's a God. God made us to care for each other and help each other and help just the human race advance.
Mhm.
But people get away from that because we're tempted by things such as greed, lust, and gluttony, and all those other sins in the Bible. But I'm telling people, if you actually sit down, like me, you were sitting down, like some people, like what we doing right now, like a white man and a black man talking, they can't see that because they grown up with all that hate. Me, I don't have hate. I love everybody. Until you give me a reason to not like you, I'm cool. I'm cool with you. Like I've talked to homeless people all the time, have a conversation with them. Like this year I plan on doing something um with philanthropy through my podcast, because I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And like I just want to. I have a daughter, so I want my daughter to, when I leave this world, whether peaceful terms or like against my will, I want my daughter to remember me as a great man that inspired a lot of people, that touched a lot of people. Like I make jokes here and there on my podcast, but because I can just do a serious movie review, but that to me that'd be boring. That'd be boring. So I try to have fun with my co-host and my guests, and that's why I bring people like you on. Like, to be honest, even though I love interviewing people like Mark Christopher Lawrence and Larry Hankin, I feel the smaller the smaller creatives are more they come more natural to me, because
Mhm.
like I don't feel that big. I don't feel like that big aura of stardom around them. Because when I was talking to Larry Hankin, he has a personality, like, oh, like you can open up to him. But for certain like people I've interviewed, it's like I just feel like, oh, I'm not worthy enough to interview you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
we're just people, man, and
yeah,
dude, you're going to do great things, Jason. I believe that, man. You've got the
man, you
drive,
are too, man.
you got the passion. Like I think you're going to do amazing things, man. And as I sit here and listen to you, dude, I just feel nothing but love in my heart for you, man. Seriously. Like, you're awesome, dude. You're awesome.
Yeah, man.
Makes me want to tear up a little bit because this is what life is about. It's about loving other people and serving other
Here's what I
people.
found on the web.
And apparently, Siri understands too, man. Like, this is what life is about, man. It's just about connecting with people and loving people and serving people and just there's nothing better than this, man. To make new friends, to build relationships. Like, I live for this, man. It's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
man.
Like, my life is better today because I've met you.
Hey, man. Well, I'm glad that I could make your life better, and to you, it's the same. Because today was a hectic day, a very hot day in Texas. It's 104, y'all. I'm melting.
That's rough, dude. That's a rough day for sure. So let me get back to your question. I keep taking myself on tangents. I apologize, man.
Now you fine, man. You fine.
So Dawn Journey Productions. So for 23 years, I think I said this already, but for 23 years, my favorite film has been the 1978 Dawn of the Dead, and I discovered. So I'd seen Night of the Living Dead. I'd seen the Night of the Living Dead remake. I fell in love with the zombie genre. Fast forward to about seventh grade. I didn't really know who George Romero was. I hadn't really put any kind of thought or research into it. And this is also kind of the early days of the internet. Home computers are
Right.
still a new thing. YouTube didn't exist. IMDb didn't exist. So I wasn't really educated on that genre of film. I don't believe I was. But one day I came home from school, and there was a time in history when MTV actually played music and obscure things. And they were playing this show that was showing like movie trailer clips. And I just remember there was this like vista of a mall parking lot and these grayish blue zombies scattered about. And it was Dawn of the Dead. And I had no idea that I think I did know who George was at that time because because when I look back in my memory, it's like, oh wow, George did another film, So I mean, it's been 23 years though, so they're some of the more like minutia details are kind of hazy at this point, um, but I was like, okay, I've got to see this movie. I'm a 12-year-old kid in a dawn of the internet era.
Right.
Like, I mean, we had a 28.8 modem. I don't even think 56K had hit yet. 56K wasn't even common. So how do I see this film? So one of the first things I did is I actually there was a novelization that George did with Susanna Sparrow. And it was and my public library had a first edition copy of this book. I would like to actually get one. It's a nice hardback and it's very retro looking. It's got that real 70s design going on. I've run across them on eBay. I would really love to find one, but I want to find one in the wild. Like I want to actually go to McKay's or something and actually find a copy of it.
Right.
I actually found an original copy of the Creepshow comic in a record store in Knoxville.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I kid you not, dude. It was one of the best days of my life finding it in a box in a record store in Knoxville. So I for whatever reason I didn't finish the book. I don't know why. I'm kind of weird with books. I'll start them and not finish them. But apparently I've been that way since I was 12. So that Halloween rolls around, and I'm at my grandmother's house. And when I interviewed Scott Reiniger, I actually called my grandmother to tell her the story. And she didn't remember it. I'm like, well, it happened. You played a big part in me. She apologized to me. I said, no. This is what makes the story so great. So I'm at her house, and at 10 o'clock that night on one of the movie channels, Dawn of the Dead's coming on. I don't remember what movie was playing before it. I could care less. It didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter. It did not need to be on television at that moment. Dawn of the Dead did. 10 o'clock rolls around. I'm freaking out. I'm finally about to see this movie. There's the red carpeted wall appears. Galen Ross gets scared. You got that crazy goblin score playing. My grandmother walks out in the living room and says, "Time to go to bed." And I begged her. I'm like, please let me stay up. I've got to see this movie. Nope, go to bed. I came that close to seeing the movie, man, and I didn't get to see it. And so,
Oh man.
I think it was the next year. I actually ended up finding it at I believe it was the Blockbuster that was up the street from my house, and I brought it home. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I'd seen The Lost Boys, I'd seen Howling, I'd seen these films that were fairly violent, but there's something about the violence of Dawn of the Dead. I had never quite seen anything like it. I mean, in particular, I remember, in the first 20 minutes, they raid this housing tenement, and Wooly kicks open the door and blows the head off of somebody. I mean, and it showed it. And if you can imagine going back to 1978, most people, they had never seen anything like that. The camera would normally turn away, and your imagination didn't work.
Well, also remember, I think around that same time, The Last House on the Left came out.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But dude, I mean, even Last House on the Left didn't hold a candle to it, though, in terms of the violence. I mean, it was really gory, but
I guess like Dawn of the Dead, it had that gory violence, but Last House on the Left, it had that visceral violence.
That was rough. Yeah, that was a really rough movie. Well, I mean, since the 60s, there were a lot of exploitation films that had some violence in them, but they weren't really
grindhouse films.
Yeah, they weren't really as mainstream as Dawn was. And now there were theaters out there that, if you looked in the paper to see what was playing, it would just say, call for title. And it was NC-17. I mean, it's amazing they pulled off an NC-17. I knew I had watched, as time went on, I knew I had watched something that redefined cinema, in my opinion. I knew this changed things.
Well, that's what George liked to do, though.
Oh yeah, man, he definitely pushed the envelope, and Tom was amazing. So I watched this movie, and it made me scared of the dark. Honestly, I remember laying in bed, just listening for zombies to come upstairs, but man, that movie changed my life, and nothing's ever. I mean, 23 years later, it's still my favorite movie of all time, and When I was sitting down to start Dawn Journey Productions, I was trying to think of a name, and I'd come up with something, and it was kind of lame. I didn't really like it. It didn't flow well, and I was like, what's something that really matters to me? What's something that would mean something? And then I realized, like, well, man, Dawn of the Dead had such a big impact on me, and you can kind of, even with my podcast, it all kind of goes back to that film and George,
Right.
and even with Joe Bob, like it all kind of circulates together. And I thought, it was a journey to get to see that movie, Dawn Journey Productions, and it stuck. And I got the domain for my email, and I started at Dawn Journey Productions, and now we have, I think there's 5 of us right now. Um, and we're just working, man. And we're trying to build this thing, and we have. I really genuinely believe that I have a mission in this field, and it's to provide, it's to love others and serve others, and to provide a safe, accessible place for people to make movies and to be the change. I want to be the change. I want to
Oh
actually
yeah.
be the change. So, and it's amazing. And there are other people out there who have, like yourself. I mean, there are other people out there who have that same vision, so we're just doing it, man. We're just making it happen. And I'm working on, I've got about 3 more production days for my movie that I'm working on. And then it's going to be in editing, and then I'm going to do crazy stuff with it, man. I'm going to hit the festival circuit. I'm going to, premiere it at a local theater here. I'm going to try to do a red carpet event. Like I want to raise money so I can pay my cast. I've been really blessed to have all these people believe in me and stand next to me and help me achieve this dream. And there's no amount of money that could truly repay their time. But
Right.
I don't care if I make a single penny off this movie. I want to pay my people because they've given me a gift that is immeasurable. Like when you have people that believe in what you're doing and they sacrifice their time, that's a currency that no one can repay. I want to pay the people. So I'm actually going to run an Indiegogo, and my aim is going to be to raise enough money to pay my people as much as I can, and to pay for the film festival entry fees, and to have the premiere and maybe like a party. So that's the big goal I have right now with the project, and I
Well,
actually,
man.
it's, so again, but
No, I said, well, man, me, I can do whatever I can to help you out, whether it's promoting it. If you got trailers, whenever the movie's officially done, I'll show it. If it ever comes out to the public, I might do watch party. To be honest, I was been thinking the whole time you talking, maybe one day me and you should just do watch parties of old horror films that we just loved.
that'd be fun, man. That'd be really
And
fun. We
like
could totally do that.
me, I'm the type of person people always like. Even my girlfriend asks, "Why do you like bad movies?" I'm like, because they're fun.
But they're not. I mean, no, but it's interesting you say that, because not all movies are inherently bad, man. Like movies that people consider bad. I know I've seen some bad movies. Like these are just blatantly like the filmmaker.
Oh yeah,
But a lot of people, man, when you really stop and you appreciate the art of film, I just wish people could have like I learned from Harrison Smith. He's got a really great podcast called Cinema, Cynema, and I learned a lot from him. He's a movie genius, man. Like I thought I knew film until I talked to him, and I felt like that big. I was like, I don't know anything about cinema. There's so many movies I haven't seen. Like the podcast has been humble because I'm talking to these guys and they're just like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I'm like, no, no, no. And I feel horrible about it. So like I have so many movies I need to watch to catch up. But he really, he talked at one point about people that will just blindly say like, oh, this film sucked, or this, like, and they don't really give a reason why they feel that way. I wish people could have a filmmaker perspective when they watch a movie, because most filmmakers, you don't understand how hard it is to fund a
oh
project.
yeah,
You don't understand how hard it is to get people to be a part of your project and to work around schedules and to get distribution. I mean, like it is a lot of work and a lot of time that goes into it, and it's worth it. It's
right,
magical. But to just blindly tell somebody your movie sucks, that is so disrespectful and so ignorant, because you just don't know what that person went through to make that movie. You can at
right,
the very least appreciate what they tried to do. And you can at the very least look at their budget because IMDb typically have budgets listed. Look at
Oh
what
yeah,
like
like
how
the
much money
budgets
they
in the
have.
box office.
I mean, dude, do you know if you were going to just make a movie with your iPhone, if I told you it would cost you about $1,000 to do it right, would you believe me?
Oh no, I would definitely believe you because, like I said, even though I'm not, technically trained, I've read up on the business a lot because there's a lot that goes into it. Like because you got pre-production, you got pre-production, then the actual filming, and then some. Then if you're on a bigger set, it'll require more days. More days equals more money, and like the thing whenever I say a film is bad, like me, I'm not that person. Oh, that film sucks just because it sucks. I give reasons because like people out there that like the first Suicide Squad movie, some people like I like I don't ever like if people like what they like, you like what you like, but I'm gonna tell you why I don't like it. I tell people the reason why I didn't like it was just because they didn't they tried to make them heroes when they weren't heroes.
Yeah.
Like I know the source material. I know the Suicide Squad. That's why when James Gunn came out with it, I like that's the right way because they're they're not that smart. Like book smart. They have street smarts that are book smart. They're horrible people. They're murderers and felons. And the first movie it didn't encapsulate that. It just said, "Here's Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and here's Will Smith.
Mhm.
Here you go. Oh, and here's Killer Croc, who is a black stereotype that wants to be ET. I, that movie, but but I give reasons why, and I'll never say, man, this person never make a movie again. I said no, it was bad, but I find entertainment in bad things. Like
Yeah.
certain things I can't, like Morbius. That was just boring to me, and I like Jared Leto, but I'm really like, man, you were really riding that Oscar, Jared Leto. Like Dallas Buyers Club, you did really good, but ever since then,
Wow, what a film that was, man. I Yeah, what an amazing movie that was. He did such a good. Him and Matthew McConaughey gave such good performances. See, like Jason, I hear what you're saying, man. Like dude, there are some sucky movies out there. They're
yeah,
out there. They
like,
exist, but be objective and fair.
oh yeah,
There are people who just are like, this movie sucks, and like, and look, to be honest, before I got into filmmaking, before I heard Harrison talk about that was me, man. I used to look at movies that way, and I felt so convicted by that podcast episode and that point that he made, and then making my own movie. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't look at films anymore and just say this is crap. Like now, when I watch a film that I might have seen was bad, beforehand might have said, oh, this is not a good movie. What I do now is I look at like, wow, what an incredible drone shot, or gosh, man, I wonder how he got all those extras together in this one spot, or wow, I mean, he did a really good job with the continuity in this scene, or that's I wonder how hard it was to secure this location. And to take a step further, I might go to IMDb and look at what budget the project had. Um,
yeah,
and
and
like,
that's and that's the thing. Like, cause I try, it don't always work, but I try to point out some of the good. But
yeah,
sometimes you can't find some good. Like I tell people, like Michael Bay, his movies, like his movies, they're entertaining, but like from a film aspect, they're bad.
mhm.
But I will say this: that man knows how to direct action scenes.
And
Like,
it's such a joke, like everything's an explosion on Michael Bay. But dude, I mean, even that. Look at the amount of insurance. I mean, can you imagine the insurance cost for a Michael Bay film, and like because
oh
all the
yeah,
crazy
man.
stuff he does.
First of all, they're probably car lots and like props and like sets saying like wanting to pay Michael Bay millions. Like, we just want you to blow up our lot. Just blow it up. Just blow everything up.
I can do that. That's what I'm good at, right?
But like, and because I tell people all the time, if you just had art house films in the world, everything would be boring. Like if it was just straight art Oscar bait dramas, everything would be. I'm telling
Oh,
you right
I've
now.
never, I've never heard that Oscar bait. That's an interesting. I've never heard that
Yeah,
term
see,
before.
you'll know when something's Oscar bait because it'll be a biopic or a period piece, and some of them are good. Like me and my girlfriend watched that Baz Luhrmann Elvis. Me personally, I can't stand Elvis for personal reasons, but I will say the movie actually it made me like I actually enjoy the movie somewhat. Like there's some problems with the movie, but Baz Luhrmann, if you know him, he is known for making fantastical biopics.
You know, we're talking about bad movies. Let me give you an interesting experience I had with a particular film. Do you remember back in 2019 that film The Dead Don't Die?
Was that one of those on demand movies?
It had a theater release, and I can't remember I cannot remember the name of the filmmaker that made it. He's done several films, and apparently he's notorious for what notorious is the right word, but apparently like what I had seen other movies by him, and I just didn't realize I didn't really pay that much attention to who made the movie. I just remember the trailers made it. It was a Bill Murray movie, and it looked like a comedy. And I remember watching it, and it was very political. It was like it was very subtly political.
Right.
Had a lot of had a lot of political commentary undertones, and I didn't find it overly humorous. And so I walked into this film with an expectation based off of the trailer, which completely miscommunicated what the film was. And I did not like it the first time I saw it, but I watched it again. For some reason, I just wanted to watch it again, and then I watched it a third time and a fourth time. And actually, I'm going to buy it. I really like the movie now. It's a great movie. I like the characters. I like the universe. I like kind of the Nick Nolte-ish guy that narrates. He's like this kind of woodsman dude that in the movie I can't remember the name of his character, but man, the trailer really hurt that film. Like I don't know what happened there, but they made it look like it was going to be this Bill Murray comedy, and it wasn't even close.
Man,
It
I
was.
got a similar story too. But I'll let you finish.
No. Go ahead, tell your story, man.
So I don't know if you remember this movie that okay, so a lot for everybody for people that's out there watching, y'all know James Franco and Seth and not James no, it was James Franco and Jonah Hill. Y'all know them.
Love those
Comedy
two.
actors.
Yeah.
So I saw this trailer and it had James Franco and Jonah Hill, and it looked kind of serious, like, oh, this must be a dark comedy. So I was watching the movie. After an hour, I'm like, there is no joke in this. So I forgot what the movie's called, but James Franco, he's playing somebody that murdered his family in a hotel room, and Jonah Hill is playing because it's based off a true story. He's playing the New York Times reporter that got really close to him and was the only one that got the story on him. But he was trying to say that I think he was trying to prove that he was innocent. I think,
Mhm.
but in the end, you find out that he did the crime. But it was very interesting, and like that was the first time I was kind of pissed because like I sat an hour waiting for a joke and the joke never came.
Never happened. But that's because
But
they're typecast, man. Like
yeah,
that's they do so many comedies. Like that's kind of your expectation when you see them
yeah,
in a
and that
film.
was my fault. And that was my fault. But then
Yeah.
I was like, but then when I was watching, like, wow, James Franco and Jonah Hill are actually really good actors.
Mhm.
With like because like Jonah, he was always typecasted as the fat, funny stoner dude, like him and Seth Rogen. But um, I've seen movies with them in it where they play like, well, Seth Rogen, he ain't never serious, but he has semi-serious roles, and like he's really good. So is James Franco, even though he nasty. Like he's a really good actor, and so is Jonah Hill. But the whole time, I was legit just frustrated. Like, where the fuck is the joke at?
Yeah. Yeah, that's and man, there's something about Jonah Hill. I really like him a lot. I think he's a great actor.
Wolf of
Um,
Wall Street.
yeah, I mean, he was fantastic in that movie. He actually directed a film recently called Early '90s, and I haven't watched it yet, but it was a real passion project for him. And it's really cool to see what he's overcome. I mean, there's so many interviews and stuff where people are just asking about his body and his weight, and it really hurts, and he's frustrated with it. He's like, stop focusing on this. The guy has been able to cross over from comedy to serious drama, and that's not easy to do. And he's got a real range. But like, I mean, dude, I love the 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street.
Oh,
Like him and
I
Channing
love
Tatum,
those movies.
they're fantastic. He does such a good job on those movies. I love Jonah Hill. I would love to actually interview him one day. I'm gonna
Man,
add that to my wish list. I'm gonna talk to Steve about that. Um,
man, Jonah
like
Hill and Channing Tatum. Those would be two people I just want to hang out with, especially
yeah,
Channing Tatum.
yeah.
Like,
I actually I don't know why people give Channing. He's a good actor, man. Like
oh
and
no,
John
he
C.
like.
in that movie,
Foxcatcher. Foxcatcher, he was amazing. Him and Steve, was it Steve Carell, right?
yeah, Steve Carell's an amazing actor too. But Jonah Hill, man, I have a lot of respect for him, and I think it's so cool. He's achieved like his big goal was to work with Martin Scorsese, and he did.
Oh yeah.
And Wolf of Wall Street. And I would love to interview him and just get to talk to him and hear his story and what that experience has been like for him. And I hope to have a similar experience. He and he looks seems like he's a really humble guy as well. He's not.
Oh yeah.
He just seems really humble. It's funny too because like I love Seth Rogen and James Franco, and I love that whole the Apatow team. And I mean, like Pineapple Express is one of my favorite movies. I love
Man,
that movie. It's
one of
so
my
goofy.
favorites. One of my
Bill
favorite
Hader,
stoner movies.
dude, in the beginning with Bill Hader, I love that scene. Like,
Bill Hader's underrated actor to me.
oh yeah,
He,
and he's so good in Barry.
man, Barry, I love like I tell you this all the time. They think I'm lying. Y'all, Barry, y'all need to watch it. It is the best show on television.
I like.
The way they ended that last season, they could end it there, and that would be perfect. I feel like that's the perfect ending for that show.
I also like Jason Sudeikis a lot.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I
he's
just
really good.
has he been in anything recently?
Yeah, he's been doing that Ted Lasso. I haven't watched it yet, but he's been doing that Ted
See, yeah,
Lasso
I
show
heard of
on
Ted
TV.
Lasso. I just
And it's
it's
amazing. Apparently,
it's too many streaming services out here.
I know. I
It's
gotta
way
get
too.
Paramount Plus because I want to see that Godfather show.
They got a Godfather show.
Yeah, so it's I can't remember the name of it. It's I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but it's a show about the mob ties and how The Godfather was made, and it's on Paramount Plus. And I want to see that. It would be the mob just the mob's involvement. I love mafia stuff.
Man,
Um, I,
man, we best friends now, man. Like
oh, dude,
Goodfellas, Goodfellas,
Scarface,
and Godfather.
Goodfellas,
Like
Casino, yeah, dude,
man,
Donnie
man, like
Brasco,
Godfather. Oh
yeah.
yeah, man, like Godfather and Goodfellas. My two, and to be honest, whenever I write anti-heroes, I look to Godfather because Marlon. I want to say what it was Marlon Brando, right?
They played
Yeah,
and Al Pacino.
yeah. He Marlon Brando plays the perfect, and like they wrote him as the like as a great anti-hero
Mhm.
because I feel like anti-heroes, if you just do it to be edgy, it's gonna fail. But if you make an anti-hero who starts off as a hero and he does bad things, but in his eyes sees but in his eyes he sees it doing good, and he's kind of doing good, just doing he's dicking people over. I like that. And like, I was listening to a script lecture. It was a controversial statement, but it was interesting. Somebody has said, have you ever noticed that whenever we see a movie with Adolf Hitler, we just see him being the outright villain. And they said, why is that? And then somebody said, why has nobody ever tried to write Adolf Hitler as a human? Because somebody had said, everybody, even like somebody said, there's no heroes or villains. There's only humans. Because they said, well, Adolf Hitler, he thought what he was doing was good, but to us, it comes off as villainy. And they made a really good point. And I think that's what makes good villains and good anti-heroes, because the best part about like me, I love Darkseid. He's one of my favorite villains, but he's not human. He doesn't have any type of human characteristics, no human qualities. He's
Yeah.
just evil to be evil. But when somebody said that about Adolf Hitler, I thought about it because I'm a history buff, and I was thinking about like they kind of have a point, because if you remember after World War One, Germany was in a terrible state.
Mhm.
But Hitler, he was, even though yeah he was an evil person, he was such a phenomenal speaker. Like he was a great speaker. Like I will give him that. He was a great speaker, and he could get people to rally behind him.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
he
mean,
was
Germany was right for that. I mean, like they were their economy was in shambles. They were in
right.
disgrace, and here's this young charismatic guy that's like, I want to bring glory back to Germany. But
And he kind of did bring back up that economy. But like I said, that's why whenever I write something, I think of the human aspect,
Mhm.
why they do it. No, it's like what's their motivation? Like
Yeah.
their like what's their ideal motivation? Where's the fall? um how they go about things, and then like what makes them a villain. Because I tell people all the time, Red Hood's a villain. Like if you think about Red Hood's a villain, like yeah, he killing criminals. Him and the Punisher, they're killing criminals, but they're murdering people. And
Yeah.
by society standards, murder makes you a bad person.
In my opinion, the two greatest antiheroes I've seen in fiction are Tony Soprano and Walter White.
Oh yeah, oh man,
Um,
man. I still
Tony,
have not watched Breaking Bad. I'm gonna get there.
you got to watch it, man. And Larry's in it too. Actually, plays a really cool part. He's a junkyard owner. But man, Tony Soprano. I've watched The Sopranos a couple times, and you're struck at like he's a horrible person,
Yeah,
but you don't want anything bad to happen to him. You don't want him to get caught. Like they humanize him just enough for you to care about him. But he's an awful human being. It's the same with Walter White. And what's really interesting about Breaking Bad is Walter White becomes a monster. He goes from being a high school teacher to being just a drug kingpin, and he becomes a
right.
monster. They somehow, I don't understand. This is really incredible screenwriting. They actually, in one season, Skylar White, her character, she's his wife in the story. She just turns on him and is going to leave him, rightfully so, because she finds out who he is and what he's doing.
Right.
But they wrote it in such a way that you actually kind of don't like her, and even their son turns on her, and she's in the right, like she's done nothing wrong. Walter is the
Right.
monster, but I don't understand how they did it, man. But like they literally write it in a way that you actually don't like Skylar. You think you don't like her, and even the son doesn't like her, and it's like, but she's not, you know, and she and I think they accomplish it. Like she has an affair and she does some things that are not great, but at the end of the day, she's still the victim. At the end of the day,
Right.
and it's incredible screenwriting they did with that, man. You absolutely have to watch it. You'll watch it. You'll be hooked.
Like I said, I watched 2 episodes at like I lost my cable, but I want to get back to it because I want to bring up, you said how they're able to get you to like Walter White so much and like villainize everybody else around him. From the episodes I've seen, I think the reason why is because a great screenwriter, they can make you fall in love with the character by I say two aspects. Well, probably one more I can't think of, but by adoration, like it like there's something like there's something endearing about them, or something that sympathizes them with, or something you can relate to. Like Walter White, he started off as a teacher. He started as a teacher trying to make ends meet, having a shitty life. We all can relate to that, and he has a family. A lot of us can relate to that. Things about like a show kind of similar to that, but like at a lesser scale, Ozark. Like
Yeah,
Jason,
man.
like Jason Bateman, he deep down at his core, he's a shitty person. He's getting all these people killed, but we like him just because he's funny. That like he has a personality. He has a dry personality. I tell you all the time. People don't believe me. He has a Tony Stark personality. If Robert Downey Jr.
Oh,
didn't play
yeah,
Tony Stark, I could see
absolutely.
him playing Tony Stark.
Yeah,
Like he
absolutely. I agree.
like he has that dry humor, and that makes us warm to him. And he's all about taking care of his family.
Yeah.
And like even though his wife cheated on him, he still protects her and he loves her to a certain extent. I'm pretty sure it kind of wanes later on the show, but that makes you not want to see him get what needs coming to him. Which is why spoilers for anybody that ain't watched it. The end of the show is perfect in my eyes. Like it's the perfect ending because they get away. Because the whole time I was thinking like this show's going to either end in two ways: either the family's going to die,
Mhm.
or they're going to get away with it, and there's going to be a lot of bodies buried because of them. And the latter happened. And I was like, that's perfect. I'm glad that you went with a realistic, bleak ending, because I would have not accepted a happy ending, because
Mhm.
these people don't deserve, like well, it's a happy ending for them, but not for us. That's why it was so clever to let them get their happy ending, because deep down we know they don't deserve it. Like Ruth was the one that died when she should have been the one to get out, because
Mhm.
people were thinking, "Oh, Ruth's gonna make it out." The whole time I was thinking, "No, Ruth's gonna die." Plus, I just hated that accent. Oh, that accent just it burned. It was like chalk on. It was like claws on a chalkboard.
You feel like it was
But
overdone?
yeah, well, it was no. She does a great job. I just hate very country Southern hick accents. They just annoy the hell out of me. But but like that show, it was done really well. It had some shortcomings, but they wrote that story well. And I want like we've been getting off topic, but I've been wanting to ask you.
Sure.
I've been wanting to ask you, when you write your characters, what is your process for the characters that you make?
I've never been asked that. That's a great question. Um, so in Blood Repentance, I I had very specific people in mind when I wrote the characters.
Right.
Um, they were friends, and a little bit of myself was injected in them as well. Um, I think I don't know. You have sort of a big picture of who this person is, what their personality is,
Right.
um, how you want your audience to see them, how you want your audience to feel about them, and I write the dialogue around that. Like in Blood Repentance, there's a character who's extremely unlikable. He is extremely unlikable, and I'm actually really excited about getting to film one of the upcoming parts of the film because there's a dynamic between himself and another character. And what's interesting is both of these actors have a history in real life. So we kind of joke that like any kind of like animosity they may have had towards each other is just going to completely come out. When they're acting these scenes out. But it's a joke. Like they're fine with each other. But when I wrote that script, man, like I had very specific people in mind.
Hmm.
And that was actually more out of necessity than anything because I didn't have any money, and I knew that I needed to get people on the
Right.
project. And I'm like, okay, well, I know so and so is going to play this character, and so and so is going to play this character. So I injected their personalities into it. What's cool though is it translates to any actor or actress out there. I mean, anybody can play it because, like, so when you get into filmmaking, I'll go ahead and tell you one piece of advice you're going to get from any filmmaker you talk to, myself included, is things are going to go wrong. And one of the greatest assets and skills you can have as an effective filmmaker and a good filmmaker is the ability to adapt and adapt quickly.
Right.
The first week we were supposed to shoot, I lost two actors due to like scheduling and stuff, and I had written this character for my friend Ryan. Um, I mean, like, I wrote it to look like him. I wrote it to, like this character was Ryan, and Ryan had to back out because of scheduling. We wouldn't have been able to finish the film with him, so he ended up getting replaced by someone named Onyx Miller, and so we had to rewrite. I had to rewrite the character. But what's really cool is Onyx, when she auditioned, she took what was there. We hadn't had time to rewrite the script yet, so
Right.
we she auditioned with the Ryan's character essentially, and she just from the start. I mean, take one, dude. Like we're doing a Zoom call. Here's the script. Act this scene out with Scott. From take one, she started reading and making it herself, and then brought this like really like savage maternal element to the character, and we're just Scott and I were just sitting there like, wow, like this is awesome. We're like, do it one more time, and she did it again, and it's like, you got the part, and then we just we rewrote the part for her. So I don't know, man. That's a great question. I think you just I just have for me I think about what I want. I think it starts with what do I want the audience to feel about this character.
Right.
I'm very much a big picture person, so I'm looking at like the end result. Do I want the audience to hate this person? Do I want the audience to love this person? How do I want the other characters to interact with this character? What's their person? I mean, you really are building a human being, from the
Right.
personality up, and I think and I don't know if this is every screenwriter, but I know for me, I do tend to inject a little bit of myself in there. I enjoy people that know me really well. I'm a very silly guy. I'm very high energy. I'm very silly. I'm very much an extrovert, and I love to make people laugh. So I like to write witty characters that are just
Hmm.
real off the cuff, on the fly. Cracking a sarcastic joke. I really like those kinds of characters. So and this character Brad, I got to inject a lot of that into him. I actually joke though he's a very unlikable character, and it disturbs me how easy it was to write that. I'm like, what's wrong with me that I can write such an unlikable character so easily, Um, but it's funny, man. Like as I'm sitting there writing the dialogue, I'll have a character say something, and then I hear the response in my head, like what I would say with him. It's like some little witty remark, that would probably get under somebody's skin. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. So I sit there and write it, and write dialogue. That's the hardest part about writing screenplay, especially I'm brevity is not a strength of mine, so I tend to be very verbose. And when when you read dialogue in a book, it doesn't translate well to the spoken word. So like when I'm writing these scenes, I actually literally see the scene happening in my head. I see both of these actors talking to each other, and it sounds great. But what you need to do is when you write a scene, stop and then read it out loud, because what you'll
Right.
find is a lot of times, the more you do it, the better you get at it. But things will sound wooden, or they sound too
Like not
verbose.
natural. It's like not
Exactly. Yeah,
natural.
exactly. Like yeah, because like we did our second table read. One of my executive producer and his wife were there, and when we were done, they stayed after to give me some feedback on the script. They were just like, they were just going through the dialogue, and they weren't mean about it. And I welcome, and don't be afraid for people to pick apart your work, because it's never going to be better if you don't accept the
Right.
criticism. And they're like, hey, this sounds really wooden. People don't talk. Like one of the criticisms I got was like, everybody is constantly saying each other's names. People don't do that in real life.
Right.
And it makes sense because when you're writing it, you're wanting to make sure that it's known. Because I mean, writing a screenplay is different than writing a narrative novel. Like it's you're not giving description in the middle with the dialogue normally. You'll have like a scene description, then you'll just have the dialogue, and then go to another scene description and the dialogue. Every now and then you'll have like so and so looks at, or you can do like what's called a parenthetical, and you can say to so and so. So I had to go back and change all that, and it actually brought me anxiety because I'm like, oh, is the audience really going to know? Like, but you take for granted the fact that the characters are going to be talking to each other. It'll be pretty
Right.
obvious, So that was one criticism I got, or like, it's like, this sounds really wooden. You need to, or this sounds like I would, one of the things one of the challenges I ran into, and this is giving away a little bit more of the story than I care to, but I'll say it. There's a twist on the vampire in my movie, and there's a scene I really wrestled with where I had like the character has to explain this. They have to explain why when A happens, B allows them to do this, right? And man, I think we've done like 14 drafts of this script. And actually, I still have to, I feel like it's unusual to still be doing script rewrites while you're making a movie, but things are happening that are forcing me to do it. But I wrestled with this one scene every single one of these drafts, and I finally got it right, and I got it very, the brevity's there. It's not, word salad. It's, just very to the point. But it's like a scene I couldn't get rid of, man. Like it's an integral thing. Like, this needs to be explained, but trying to find a way to explain this part of the story and it just not sound really weird and wooden or like
Like
over.
exposition. Like
Exactly. Like it's just, people don't really tend to, unless you're doing like an interview or something, in normal dialogue, people don't tend to go on, that, that much. You know what I mean? Like they,
ooh,
it's not normal.
man, and ooh, like I love, even though I love Stranger Things, That last, oh my god, that last episode and the first part, a 20-minute dialogue, a 20-minute monologue. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
That's
And,
tough, dude. That's tough.
and that's why I tell, like, my advice to people, even though I'm not a seasoned writer, I just picked this up by watching so many movies. I tell people all the time, if when you write something, if you got to explain something too much, just go ahead and take it out, or like try to find a way you can explain it through the scene, and not just a person saying, well, I did this because of that, and b you made me this way, and here's how I did that. I, every not every scene has to be explained. Sometimes you have to let people, I say this jokingly, but audiences can be smart sometimes, and if you put enough in there, they can pick it up. Because if you just put a whole bunch of exposition in there, for someone like me who's already tired of 2-hour movies, I'm gonna get bored real quick and I'm gonna just check out.
Never,
But
ever, ever underestimate your audience.
yeah,
You
and
know,
that's why I like Stan Lee, he made the kitty books, but he said, I treat these kids like they're adults. He even said, I write as if I'm writing for adults, because kids are smart. And that's why I tell people, just because they're kids or they're a certain demographic, write how you would a normal adult human.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
believe it or not, people are smart. It may not seem like it now, but people are smart.
yeah. And you know, I'm actually co-writing you know, if you look at my IMDb, there's a project I'm working on right now that's not listed yet, but I'm co-writing a film with someone right now, and there's a particular detail in the story that, you know, we're both asking, like, I wonder if anybody's going to notice this.
Right.
It's kind of a running thing throughout the story, and I said, you know, some at least one person will. And I would love, you know, for there to be, like, you know, like for the movie get popular enough where we have a Comic-Con Q&A panel or something where we can, because I want somebody to ask, like, hey, I noticed this, was this intentional? You know, it's really cool because we're doing I can't really talk about the story, but it's going to be it's a very uh, detailed, um, we're putting a lot of work into paying a true homage to the 50s
Right.
sci-fi B movie, down to, like, the camera angles or the shot types that are used, the aspect ratio we're filming in. Like, we're putting that much, we're we're putting that much effort into the little details. Um, you know, even the dialogue, you know, we're intentional. You know, there are times, like, we're writing and it's like, well, this doesn't sound right. Like, that, you know, they didn't talk like this in movies back then. You know, or you know, these movies didn't have dialogue like this. You know, it's been a really cool project to work on. Like, I fell in love with it when I heard about it, and then when I got asked to come on board and co-write, I was like, oh my gosh, what an amazing opportunity. So that's been really cool. Um, so I'm excited for people to get to see that. That's hopefully going to be out by the end of the year. Um,
Okay.
writing, man, it's such a, it's, you know, it's almost like playing an instrument. You know, when you play an instrument, the idea is to let that become an extension of yourself and to just get lost in it. You know, and I feel like that happens with writing. Like, you know, I actually, with Blood Repentance, I actually completely redid the script once, and I literally had come home after talking with some friends about some ideas, and I jumped in the shower, and as I was taking a shower, I suddenly realized what I wanted to do. So I hurried up, you know, I finished my shower, got out, sat down, started writing page one. I was going to do, like, a certain part of it, and I rewrote the entire script, and like 3 hours passed, and it seemed like it had only been like an hour. It was weird, you know. So I didn't get a
Man,
lot of sleep that night, but um,
writing's like a drug, man.
it really is, man. I just, you know, dude, filmmaking is such a wonderful thing. Like, I wish every, you know, I know not everybody's interested in it, but, you know, it's just such a cool. It's taught me so many lessons, even about life. You know, like having to learn to be. It teaches, you know, being a director. You learn a lot about leadership. there's a lot of important leadership skills that you need to have, like being able to get along with people and adapt and work with people and collaborate with people, being willing to listen to others. Um, One of the biggest things you need as a director is humility.
Right.
And you also need to remember that uh, you need to be able to stay cool under pressure because your team is looking at you on how to react. They're going to have their own opinions on things, but when something goes wrong, they're ultimately looking to you to see what to do. And if they see you fall apart or lose it, they're gonna they're gonna lose faith in you, man. So like you have to don't be a robot. What I tell people is, so like Jason, let's use you as an example. You're making your movie.
Mm-hmm.
Have one confidant, have one person, probably your AD. When you have a negative emotion arise from something that goes wrong, you will get frustrated, you will get
Right.
angry, you'll things because things are going to go wrong. The only person that needs to see you express those emotions is your confidant.
Right.
Get them out to that person. Okay, you got them out. Now let's talk about solutions. Come up with solutions for the problem, then go back to your team and present the solutions. That's really important. Don't ever lose it in front of your team. Don't ever pop off in front of your team, man. Like be calm, cool, and collected, and be willing. You need to be able to adapt. Um, but I can tell you too, one of the greatest things you can do as a filmmaker to succeed is collaborate with a team. When I first wrote Blood Repentance, I was so guarded of that script. Like I didn't want anybody else's name on it but mine. And then once I started getting people's input and help, I realized how stupid it was to look at it that way.
Right.
It's like, so now if you look at the title page, there's like 8 different names on it. And I don't care because I have a better script because of these people. They had
Right.
dialogue ideas. They had story ideas. Don't be afraid to collaborate and put somebody else's name on your project. Don't be afraid of that because you're going to get a better movie and a better screenplay because of it. I am all about writing with a team now. That is the way
Okay.
to go. It is, I mean, trust me. When you're on set, man, make sure to tell your team, I am open to your ideas.
Right.
I have had, so like a few weeks ago we had Honey Michelle Gregory come down. She was the original male girl on Monster Vision, and
Right.
she was actually on Joe Bob's Driving Theater. She goes back that far. She's in our movie, and the day we were filming her scenes, one of my actors, a guy named Corey Davison, who's just amazing. He's a local Knoxville actor, and he's awesome. He's just a great guy, phenomenal actor. There was a scene where he was like walking towards the door, and he's like, hey Brian, like what if I did this? And he kind of described what he wanted to do. I was like, yeah, man, go for it. And it looked great. Like don't be afraid to collaborate with your team. Like I've even just outright asked, opinions. Okay, like guys, what do you think if I shot it like this? Like if I was just really unsure about a shot type I wanted to use, or even an angle, I would say, I've asked them like, what do or I've like, there was a scene we were trying to do that involved the lights, and I just really, I was at a point, I'm like, I really don't know what to do here. And I just asked my team, I asked everybody, like, what do you guys think we should do here? Don't be afraid to collaborate with your team and get their ideas. It's very
Okay.
much a team effort. It takes a village to make a movie, quite literally.
Well, okay. Well, speaking of movie, we've been going on, but I gotta ask you, man. So tell us about this movie that you're working on now. Can you give us any details when we could expect it, how it's going as far as
Yeah.
shooting goes?
Yeah. Story wise, I can't give you a whole lot. It's a vampire story, and it's
Okay.
ultimately about loss and redemption.
They're not
Um,
glistening, are they?
no, no, they're not.
Okay, good. Long they ain't glistening.
No, they're not. It's not. They're not Twilight's vampires, but they. It's a vampire story about loss and redemption. It's going to be an extremely uncomfortable movie. I can tell you
Mhm.
that. Not because of like any kind of like over the top gore or anything, but there are just some things that happen that are going to really make you uncomfortable, and I'm doing that by design. I really want this movie to have an impact on you. Um, we have about 3 more days of production to do, and we'll be done.
Okay.
I'm hoping to have it in the can by November. Uh, it's and it's great, man. I mean, I have an amazing team. I have an amazing group of actors. Um, I've been really just humbled and blown away by how willing film people are to help. There's so many people
Mm,
out there that love movies as much as you do, and they want to make movies, man, and they're willing to just work for free, dude. I mean, like they're willing to donate their time, you know, find a way to repay that time, give them IMDb credit, like give them something, you know, don't let people just straight up work for free.
right.
But, you know, people are so willing to help and it's so humbling and so amazing to see that. And when you're surrounded by all these people that love your project as much as you do and they're willing to give their time and effort and sweat to make it happen. I mean, it's just such an incredible thing. So things are going well, man. Like I said, we have about 3 more days of production. Then we're gonna hit editing and you know all that fun
Hmm.
stuff. And you know, I plan to hit the festival. It will be publicly available at some point.
Okay.
You know, I plan, and I'll make Jason. I'll make sure you see it when it's done. I'll let you know, and I'll make sure you get to see it. Um, I want to hit the festival circuit with it. I want to do an actual like theater premiere. I want to go all out, man. I want to do a red carpet thing. I want to do a red carpet event. You know, we dress up and everything. I want to have premiere the film in the theaters, and then you know, and have like a Q&A type thing. And I want to have kind of like an after party, just to celebrate my team. You know, I'm
Hey,
gonna run an Indiegogo.
okay.
You know, I started out. I was going to make this movie with my phone, and through the generosity of a lot of people, I've accrued equipment, and
Hmm.
so now we're actually filming it with a real camera, and you know we have boom mics and lights, and we have a boom mic and lights, and um, it's a legitimate professional
Right.
production, and that's been because of the generosity of people like you know my friend Mike Ankus. You know, he actually donated equipment to us, um, which just completely floored me that he did that, and it was
See,
just it was an amazing thing, man. You know, people, dude. There's so many good people out there, and filmmaking has really it's just taught me a lot of things, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever gotten to do with my life, and it's what I want to do with the rest of my life. You know, and I so badly want to make sure that other people like yourself, Jason, get to experience this. I want you going on podcasts talking about your movie and telling people the same thing, and then you're going to teach the next person, and they're going to teach the next person, man. Like
well,
that's our job, man. Let me tell you something cool.
what's
Do you
up?
know? Do you know who James Bond the third is?
James Bond. Like, wait, like, there's actually somebody named James Bond.
Yeah. So my friend, he goes by Jim. So my friend Jim Bond, he wrote, directed, and produced Death by Temptation, which was just it was actually the second episode this season on The Last Drive-In. And I'm behind on The Last Drive-In, and when I saw that his movie was on there, I flipped out. I was so excited. I was raving about it on my Facebook. I texted him. So Jim has been in the industry for over 40 years.
Oh wow.
He is. I have been so privileged and blessed and lucky to get to talk to
Hmm.
veteran filmmakers out there who have been doing this for a long time and sit at their feet and learn from them. And I spent about 2 hours on the phone one night with Jim, and he just poured into my life, man, and gave me a lot of advice and encouraged me. And but one of the things he said to me that really stuck with me, and I'll never forget this, he stressed the importance to me of the power we wield as filmmakers. Cinema has the ability to change people, and that
Right.
is not a small thing. When you can influence and change people, you're wielding a great power. Movies have the power to overthrow countries. It has the power to change people's political beliefs, their religious beliefs. You know, they're just who they are at their being, man. Like you can move people with cinema so deeply that it changes them. That is not a small thing. We
Right.
wield a great power as filmmakers. And I was so blown away by that. And Jim, you know, Death by Temptation was the first like all African American horror film, and it was really cool to hear like you know he's like you know it's like I did something that made history, you know, and he absolutely did, and but he's just a really humble guy, and he loves God, and he has a heart for people, and he wants to serve people, and he wants to see people like myself and you, Jason. He wants to see us do the same thing he did, and get out there and change the world, and make movies, you know.
R-
It's
Now, oh no. I was about to just ask you another question.
Yeah, go for it, man. What you got?
Now, the way that the world is now, with the digital age and whatnot, and all these streaming services, do you feel like now, do you feel like the digital age is going to help, like the film, like it's helping the film industry, or do you feel like it's hurting it by killing off some of these older practices, what made movies the way they are today?
I think it's I would say ultimately it's helping it.
Hmm.
We're in a renaissance, I think, in the industry, and I think things are going to change. It's weird. Like when you look at what hits theaters today, it's not like it was in the '90s or even the early 2000s. Everything's like a Marvel movie today, and that's I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but there's not a lot of variety anymore, and everything's moved to streaming. The distribution model as a whole has completely changed.
Oh yeah,
Like
it's completely different now.
when you make a movie, the next thing was like, make sure you have enough money for what they call P&A, printing and advertising. Make sure that you have a marketing budget, um, and find a distributor that's going to put your movie out there. It's not those distributors still exist, but that's not really what you're doing anymore. Now you're trying to make it into the streaming services like Film Hub and Tubi, and Jason Horton would tell you where you really want to focus on is, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to misquote Jason on this, but Jason would say like the ad based video on demand services are where it's at. Like that's the
Hmm.
future. Um, yeah, I mean everything's completely changed, man. I think Joe Bob talked about this. It used to be in filmmaking that to make a decent movie that looked like an act like a good quality film, and you needed like 20 grand to rent a Panaflex camera, and then you needed thousands of dollars for hundreds of rolls of feet of film,
Right.
and it required a lot of film based filmmaking required a lot of precision. When you read about filmmaking and directing, um, and cinematography, like when you read some of these books, it talks about these like shooting ratios, and the most common is like 3 to 1, and what that 3 to 1 or 5 to 1, and what that means is, for every so like if let's say that I want to make my movie like 3 to 1, what I'm saying is for every one scene I'm going to have three takes. Okay.
Right.
And when you have a film budget, like let's say I have $1,000, I buy $1,000 worth of film. That's all I got, man. And when you use film, it's done, it's gone, right?
Hmm.
So when I say I'm shooting 3 to 1, I'm telling my people, like, look, we have three chances to get this scene right, and then we're stuck.
Right.
And we either keep doing it and cut out other stuff, or we raise more money to get more film. Man, the pressure and the precision of filmmaking past had to have been tough. And editing was a different beast, man. Like you couldn't edit. I interviewed a guy last night named Don Farmer who's been making movies since the '70s, and he was talking about like you couldn't edit sequentially. Um, I didn't quite understand that. I'm not super familiar with how it worked, but he explained it to me. But I think it's changed things for good, man, because it's made filmmaking accessible to everyone. However, on the flip side of that, one of the criticisms of the way things are today is the amount of junk.
Right.
Some people are just making something to make something. Some people want to make. People's motivations for filmmaking are different. I'm not going to judge one motivation versus another. I got into it because I want to be happy. I'm not in
Right.
this to get rich. I want to enjoy my life, and
Right.
I'm a very passionate person, and I pour myself into what I do professionally, and I want to make sure that however many years I have on this earth, if I'm going to spend 40 plus hours a week at a job, I want to enjoy what I do.
Yeah, like you want to love doing.
Yeah.
You want to you want to love it. You want to have a great feeling when you go in for work because that's
Yeah.
something you
Because
love
you
to
don't get
do.
that time back, man. Time is that currency that
Yeah.
you can't get a return on. And but it's evolved beyond that, man. As I've gotten into this, I just more and more have kind of felt God put on my heart, like, you're not in this for you. You're in this to bring me glory, and you're in this to serve others and help people and to change. You need to be like the one thing I just keep going back to is like, be the change, be the change. And right now, what that means for me is creating a safe environment where people aren't going to be exploited, where people
Right.
are going to be respected, and they're going to have a safe place to make films. And I want quality filmmaking to be accessible to everyone. I want somebody they can come to us, and we're gonna make a good movie, man. You're gonna learn to use a camera, you're gonna learn the ropes from a veteran, mentor, director. Like I want to make things available, man. And like I said, I don't quite yet know how we're gonna pull it off, but I'm trying. I'm
Well,
really trying.
now I got a question for you. Now we talk like we're still in the the evolution of filmmaking. How surreal is it that, well, not even surreal, just insane is it that these Netflix shows and HBO Max shows, they have movie style budgets. Do you think that with Netflix and HBO and all these streaming services, do you think we're in an age to now where we're going to start getting TV shows with the production and the money put towards it, like Stranger Things that got 260 million put towards it, and which as of right now is the highest, which is like the highest budget for a TV series, until Lord of the Rings comes out eventually, which is going to be 500 million. Do you think that's going to be the trend, or do you think they're just going to save it for epics like Stranger Things? Well, I can't even call Stranger Things epic because we're still in fucking Hawkins, or Lord of the Rings, really, where Lord of the Rings is an epic. When that movie came out, it was $1 billion epic. Do you think we'll get more of that, or you think they're just going to save that for stories like that?
I think it'll be a mix of both. I think it'll be a project by project basis, but I think you'll start seeing more of that. Streaming has really just changed everything, man. I mean, it's
Right.
destroying. I mean, cable. The biggest
What's
threat.
that?
Sorry. Oh yeah,
I said,
exactly. Yeah,
like, what's that?
yeah. I mean, like cable's biggest threat is streaming services. And it's gotten so competitive now. Yeah, I think you're going to see more of that, man. I mean, like it's. I used to think that theaters were going to die out, but somebody convinced me that that's not going to be the case. What
Oh,
what I thought was going to happen was people eventually are going to just kind of get tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. Like I believe the 70s and the 80s was a magical time for film. And like, movies like Dawn of the Dead or Return of the Living Dead, or, some of these like, Night of the Comet, these movies are chopping mall, like these movies were great. They wouldn't be great today, but they were, what made them so amazing is when they were made. They were a product of their time. And I think there's a magic that existed in those 2 decades that we just doesn't exist anymore. And
well, I
we,
don't know. I don't know, man, because like I said, told you, since you say you have an eye for filmmaking, I highly suggest that you check out A24 Studios films, because those films, they are art house. First of all, they're weird as hell,
yeah.
right? They're weird, but they tell great stories. Like, I don't know if you heard the movie with Michelle Yeoh, anything or everything, anything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah, that new Jamie Lee Curtis. It's on my list of things I want to watch.
Yeah, man. Look, the thing about that movie is it's so out there and it's so art house, but it's catered for even regular audiences to enjoy it. Like, it takes so many risks. There's legit a 5 minute scene with two rocks talking. No words, just two rocks talking. But it's just such an amazing scene because it's a very emotional scene, but it's with two rocks with googly eyes.
Well, let me call your attention to something. There's a point I was going to make with this. I'm not saying that there aren't good movies today. What I am saying though is you're seeing things like Stranger Things. You're seeing synth scores being put in
Right,
newer films. You're seeing a lot of retro things being done in movies, and you're seeing a lot of remakes and
right.
reboots. And I think the mainstream, uh, studios or whatever you want to call it, I think the mainstream is trying to recapture something that just doesn't exist anymore. You know, America,
I
it's
think
not 1985 in America anymore. The culture is different today. The world is different today. You can't get it back. And I think people are really trying to recapture that magic, and you can't. But that's not to say movies are dead, man. That's not to say there aren't good films. I mean, like there's some amazing films that have come out recently. Um, but I just think that like Night of the Comet is a fantastic movie, but I guarantee you, if you made Night of the Comet today, it wouldn't work. There was a movie, there was a really cheesy film called Surf Nazis Must Die that was done in like '85, and dude, it's actually really enjoyable to watch. But the only reason it's enjoyable to watch is because it was done in the '80s. If it were made today, it would have failed. I mean, like a lot of the trauma films, man, their charm is it was the '80s. You know, the
Oh, I love Trump.
synthesizers and the low budget. Yeah, but dude, it was that, you know, Redneck Zombies, Toxic Avenger, like all these movies, man. Like they worked because it was the '80s. There was just something about that time that you could get away with things because the technology was different. You know, like synthesizers were a big thing. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but there was something about those 2 decades that really brought a magic to cinema. You know, and even I even go, you know, music and pop culture in general. And I just think it's gone today. And but again, that's not to say that there aren't great films today. But I think that is why you're seeing so many remakes and reboots because they're trying to
Well,
capture it.
well, the thing about I tell people this all the time because people always ask why is there always remakes and reboots? Because I tell people nostalgia is a hell of a drug because nostalgia is people go to nostalgia because it makes them think of when times in their mind was better when like because you know when you're younger you think oh life was great. To be honest, life probably wasn't great when you were a kid, but since you're looking at it through a child's lens, you were naive to a lot of the things going on.
Mhm.
So I think that's why these studios they prey on people's nostalgia. Sometimes it works, sometimes you get Jurassic World Dominion. So they play with people's nostalgia because I'm sorry, like I love nostalgia. Don't get me wrong, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre on 2022, it made me wish nostalgia would just go away. I I was like I love the original Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
I like this needs to be the only film, but we've got like 9 sequels from it, and
But Jason, look at part of the charm of the original Texas Chainsaw was it was 1977. You
right,
know, you had that really crappy 16 millimeter, you know, that was blown up to 35 millimeter. Like you had that really horrible. No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Last Us Left. But I think Texas Chainsaw was shot in 16. I could be wrong. It may have been shot in 35. But you had that really crappy film quality. It gave a real like grunge to the. It gave like a really kind of dirty look to everything. Like part of the charm of that film, part of the reason that film works today is because it was done in 1977. Um, you know, I think the time a movie is made is really important. You know, I think a lot of movies are a product of their time, and you know, but there can also be these sort of transcendent qualities to films that can transcend time. You know, like Texas Chainsaw. I mean, the concept is great, and you could, you know, in theory, get away with making, you know, 9 more of them, as you're saying. Like, you know, it's a, but you know, man, you also make a great point. Like, I think there is, you know, nostalgia. You know, my generation's grown up and we're, you know, in nostalgia. Harrison Smith, I know I talk about him a lot. You know, we talked about this on my podcast with him, and he calls nostalgia a form of mourning.
yeah,
That it's mourning for something you can't get back.
yeah.
Um, and that's such a profound statement, you know. But I think you're right too, man. I hadn't considered that. I think you're right that, you know, maybe there is sort of you know, the studios are sort of taking advantage of, and not necessarily maliciously, but you know, maybe they're kind of taking
What?
advantage of that.
Well, no,
Nostalgia.
no. Some maliciously because, like I said, Jurassic World. I want my 2 hours and 30 minutes of my life back. That and Texas. Okay, I tell people this all the time. When somebody asks, "Well, what makes? Well, how would you do nostalgia?" The way I would do nostalgia is first of all, I wouldn't try to rewrite anything that like if say if I got Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? I'm not going to try to bring nuance to say that this serial killer that wears faces, I'm not going to say he grew up in an orphanage. I'm not going to give him a backstory because the charm of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we didn't get backstory for these characters. We just saw a crazy ass family that were cannibals
Mhm.
and they had a big hulking man do kill like basically kill for them. That's what the charm was because it was mysterious.
Mhm.
When you sometimes you say a lot when you say a little. Sometimes you say a lot when you say little.
Yeah.
But it's when you try to over explain things, is which is why I kind of think the prequels didn't work for Star Wars it makes things redundant because then you look back like, oh well, that really wasn't that fun. That's not that fun anymore with Darth Vader, because now before you saw Darth Vader as a hulking brute that was just like overpowering. Now you just see him as a bitch ass mophead boy that hates sand. And that for me, for years, I hated Darth Vader for years because after seeing the way they deconstructed what I saw Vader as a badass as a child, but he was pod racing saying laser, and that ruined it for me. But that's because they tried to explain something that did not really truly need to be explained. We didn't need to know. We didn't need to know why like the very small minute details of Anakin's life. If you would just first of all give him a stronger path to the dark side instead of, oh, Padme died because she lost the will to live, which is so stupid. But when you do things like that, it's like you're killing the original source material, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When you find out that he was in an orphanage from a lady in Waco, Texas, which by the way that's not Texas, you kill the illusion, you kill the image of what Leatherface is,
Mhm.
because you just see it. Oh, Leatherface, he's just overly sensitive, and
Yeah.
Leatherface from the first movie, he's just crazy. He's crazy, and he's sadistic. That's what you like about it. Just
But
like
I think Hooper did intentionally at the very end humanize him a little bit because he has there's sort of this childishness to him. Uh,
right
but do you remember at the very end when he
where he's waving the
falls?
yeah
Yeah, but he falls down and the chainsaw lands on his legs and cuts his legs a little bit and he screams. He gets humanized there.
yeah right.
You know, I think that was very intentional. I think Hooper there. I can't say for sure, but I think Hooper actually intentionally there tried to bring a
Well,
little bit of humanity to him.
Well, see, and that's the thing. You can do that, but when you go back and try to give him a fleshed out backstory, which contradicts a lot of the things from the first movie, because that's why I don't like prequels, because that's why I don't like sequels or prequels, because or like sequels or prequels to older properties, because it creates plot holes and it deconstructs the original movie. That's why I tell people all the time, don't get me wrong, I love me some Michael Myers, but those later movies, they kind of broke what he was really about. Because if you think about it, this is why I love the 2018 Halloween. Not really too much. I mean the 2020 or 2021 Halloween Kills, it was okay. But the thing I liked about that 2018 requel, in a sense, it tore away all the BS that we got from like the late 80s to now. And it just said, no, Michael, he wasn't related to Jamie Lee Curtis. He was legit just a serial killer on a rampage. And years later, he's going back to do what the only thing he knows how to do is to kill. And I like that because you're you're bringing nuances to the character, but you're still keeping the character the same. Like that. That's what I mean. Even though it makes no sense for a 70-year-old man to overpower people, it's still, but you still keeping that like the essence of it. That's why I liked, even though I don't agree with Zack Snyder, I liked his Dawn of the Dead because it's still the same concept. Not just he kind of cut the consumerism thing out of it, but he still kept like the basic premise, but he brought nuances to it. And that's the only time I'll give Zack Snyder credit because I'm still crying over Sucker Punch.
Yeah, I remember seeing that back in '04, and I really enjoyed it. It's it's aged okay.
Yeah,
There's some cheesiness to it today, but like it's still a good film. I enjoyed it. I don't I own it, and I think Zach did a good job on the movie. You know, it wasn't the worst thing I've seen.
right. To me, it's one of his better movies, to be honest.
Yeah, I was actually really excited about it when they had announced it. It's man, it's weird to think that was 18 years ago now.
We getting old.
No, bro. I dude, tell me about it. I'm so close to 40 now. Like that's always been like 20 years away, 15 years away, and now it's 3 years away, and I'm thinking, oh man, you
Oh,
know,
but before we go on, I wanted to ask you something.
sure.
Since you're a zombie fan, you know a little bit of the zombies. So do you feel that the zombie genre is oversaturated now, or do you or like are you tired of like the oversaturation of zombie films? Like, do you feel like there's any more originality to be done with these movies, or do you feel like it's thriving?
That's a great question, man. I personally, let me think about that for a second before I answer. I have noticed I can't necessarily blame the saturation of the genre for this, but I have noticed there's a distinct lack of excitement for zombie films on my part. Like I remember when Land of the Dead was announced back in '05, and I was so excited for it, man. And I was scouring sites for screenshots from it and learning if they could, or even like 28 Days Later. Those movies like there was a feeling I got when those movies were announced.
Right,
There was this anticipation, this hunger, this excitement that I don't feel today when I see a zombie movie come out. And like I said, I won't necessarily blame the saturation of the genre, uh, but I think it probably could be responsible because now there's just so many zombie films. Like early on, I liked it because that's my favorite genre of horror.
right,
Like I could take or leave slasher films. Like I don't really care for them. I'm not a big fan of uh, I'm not a big fan of like supernatural horror, and I'm not a big fan of slashers for the most part. Like I don't like
oh
just like
man,
yeah,
some
man, I don't know. I don't like just sadistic violence for the sake of sadistic violence. Like sometimes I don't know. I've never been a big like slasher fan, and there's
I
nothing
got
wrong.
you.
Like I'm not saying like it's wrong to like it. I just that's just my opinion. It's just not like my go-to genre.
Right,
Like I mean, Halloween was a great film, man. Like one of the things that Carpenter did really well in it was and I don't think this was intentional because this was like the first slasher film. I think it's just sort of an accidental byproduct. But like when I'm watching that movie with like 40 years of history in retrospect
right.
there, right behind it. Okay, not me, but like the movie's old. We've had a bazillion slasher films since then. But in 1970, was it six when that movie was made? 74, 76,
I
78.
think I want to say. Hold on, let's fact check that. I want to say it's 76. I want to
Okay,
say it's 76. Halloween. Oh, 1978. We were both
78.
wrong.
Okay, okay. So in 1978, when that movie was done, the serial killer, the slasher, wasn't yet this like immortal being like Jason. They can't be killed like Jason Voorhees or
Right,
Michael Myers. So one of the things that really disturbed me about that movie wasn't the killing as much as it was those moments where you saw that Michael Myers was human. He gets out of the
right,
car. He gets out of the car and walks like a normal human being up the porch to the door, right? Or looks or
right,
walks up to the window and looks in the window, and it's just driving a car. It was those very human moments of that character that disturbed me the most about that film because all these years later he became this, you know, unkillable killing machine, and it's so to have all that attached to the character and then to see in his roots like he's human, that really disturbed me the most about that
oh
film. Like
yeah, man.
that is the first like what the first hour of the movie just stalking Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, it's just super creepy. There's
Yeah,
this guy, just dude in a mask, like drive. There's a lot of genius in that film. Um,
it still holds up to this day.
oh, it
Like
absolutely does. Yeah.
like the thing about, I guess why I like it so much is why I love the movie The Black Phone that came out recently. It's it's real. Like it's very real. Like I'm not a huge fan of supernatural horror. Like some of it I can do if it's done right, but the reason why I like the slasher genre when it's done right is because it feels real, and that's for me, especially with the times we're in nowadays. Real people are that's true horror. because films like Halloween and that it shows you how twisted and how evil one section of mankind can be. And to me, that's more terrifying than ghosts or spirits or demons or whatnot. To me, humans are more terrifying than any of those. To me,
Yeah, Harrison Smith talked about that too. Like, his grandmother used to tell him, "Fear the living, not the dead."
yeah,
Um, there's yeah. I mean, serial killers are a thing. Psychopaths are a thing. I think you're right. I think that does lend an element of real terror to the genre. Like this. I've kind of wanted to go back and watch the Scream films again, purely out of nostalgia, and they weren't bad movies.
oh
I
no, I mean except for three. Three is just bad. It makes no sense. But Scream still one of my favorite horror movies to this day. Like,
I think one of the greatest scenes in that film, and it's been, I mean, I probably haven't seen that movie in 20 years, but people have been making fun of. I've been seeing this like meme thing floating around on Facebook. There's a scene in the first film where a girl is in a garage and she gets killed. She's isolated and then she gets killed.
oh yeah, I remember that scene.
Yeah, she tries to escape through the cat door, and people have been making fun of that. I think you're really missing the point of that scene if you're making fun of it, because that actually I would say is probably one of the most powerful scenes in that film, because that girl was so desperate to survive. She did everything she thought to do and tried to get out through that cat door, even though she couldn't fit through
Right.
it. It was so pitiful. Like if you really stop and look at the help, and she really that actress acted that scene really well. It was so pitiful to see her try so futilely to escape through a cat door. I would say that's probably the most powerful scene in that film. It's the most human scene in that film. This person is desperate to survive, and they try to do something completely futile. Uh, it's so pitiful and so disturbing to watch her just helplessly do something that's not going to work. I think people are really missing the point of that scene when they're making fun of it.
Well, also, Scary Movie didn't help it either. So,
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, scary movie is
but you know what I really loved about the film? How I remember Wes Craven was talking about. He says, "Yeah, these horror movie tropes they're kind of dumb and redundant. So I'm gonna make a movie to point out all of these tropes and basically make fun of the genre that I helped build, because the whole movie, that's one reason I like about scary movie. Like, the movies are meta. They're extremely meta. But if you notice, it has a commentary. Each film has a commentary on a certain part of the genre. Like, I remember the most recent one with Jack Quaid. It was about requels. I think the Scary Movie 4 was about reboots. 3 was trilogies. 2 was sequels, and I want to say the first one was just a meta commentary on the genre as a whole. And I think that is extremely smart, because if you're going to be meta, you got to be smart. You can't just be meta and be like you can't be precocious with it. That like the minute that you act that way, it's like people gonna you're gonna take people out the film, because he just trying to be uppity and like have us kiss his ass because he knows so much about film. But when you do it smart, like Wes Craven and I forgot the screenwriter's name, but the way that they did it, it wasn't them showing that they were smart. It was them showing, yeah, we know that y'all have problems with this, and we're gonna address it. And that's why I love the movie. And plus, I love Matthew Lillard. Like, I just love Matthew Lillard.
yeah, they actually, I mean, they are really good films. Wes Craven did a good job, man. What a bummer that man's gone.
Yeah, man. And a new a new nightmare, a new night what Nightmare on Elm Street, a new nightmare, that was meta too, and I actually really enjoyed that film. The
I
2000,
haven't seen it. I need to go and watch it. I haven't seen it
yeah.
yet.
So I'm not going to spoil it for you, but basically what it is that it's very meta to where the point of Wes Craven is making the new Nightmare on Elm Street movie inside the movie, and he even brings back the final girl from the original movie.
Wow.
So what's going on is Freddy is actually becoming real, and he's haunting people in their dreams and from the original cast.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
I definitely have to watch it then.
but
That's have you ever
now, huh?
let me I'm going to throw an obscure title at you here, and I'm curious if you have ever seen it. It's a John Carpenter movie. Uh, but have you ever seen Body Bags?
I've heard of it. I've probably seen it. Like I said, I've seen a lot of movies. I just don't know them by name. I probably know them if I actually see a scene from it.
So it was originally a so Tales from the Crypt was big in the '90s. I think
Yeah,
Tales from the
yeah,
Crypt started in the late '80s or maybe just the early '90s when it started. I can't remember, but Showtime wanted to do something similar, so they did this show Body Bags, and like John Carpenter is actually the host in between the
right,
segments. It's three stories. The original intention was it was going to be kind of a competitor to Tales from the Crypt, but it just didn't. It didn't take off. So instead, they just took the three that they shot and just released it as a film called Body Bags. And I love that movie, man. It's one of my favorite John Carpenter works. And actually, what's interesting is so John Carpenter did the first two segments, then Toby Hooper did the third. And it had Mark Hamill and Twiggy in it, actually.
oh wow,
Roger Corman was in it. He played a doctor. It's I think it's on Shutter right now still, and you should check it out. It's just really good. Like the first story is about a girl at a gas station encountering a serial killer. The second one has Stacy Keach in it, and it's called Hair, and
wait, I think I've heard of just that.
yeah,
I think I've heard. Hair sounds familiar.
Greg Nicotero makes a cameo in that segment. It's just and I think one of the things I like the most about it, man, is it's a trip back to the '90s as well.
Right,
You're kind of going back to 1994 when you watch it. Like that's one of my favorite things about watching Pulp Fiction today, man. Is not only is it just an amazing film, I get to go back to 1994 for a while. You know,
that should have won an Oscar. I'm a die on that hill. That should have won. I love Forrest Gump, but Pulp Fiction should have won that Oscar.
no arguments here, man. Dude, like the Jules and the Vince Vega dynamic, like that's genius screenwriting. Like you and then the casting director, kudos to them. Like John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson filmed those
Man,
parts.
so,
Dude, they were magical together in that movie.
even though Tarantino likes saying the N word a lot, which I hate, I can't lie. That man writes some good ass dialogue.
Hey, you know what's interesting is like if you sat, I bet if you sat people down and just started playing dialogue from his films, and you didn't tell them who the director was, and like let's say these are people, that's not going to sound right. You can recognize a Tarantino film by its dialogue. There's this certain cadence.
Hmm.
There's this certain sound and
It's kind
cadence and
of to be.
tempo.
It's kind of biblical to be honest. Like the way that some of his character well, for one, of course, it's a dead giveaway that like Samuel Jackson character, a lot of his lines in Pulp Fiction, it came off as very prophet like, which is what I really love. Like the whole divine intervention scene is
Yeah,
still one of my favorite scenes.
like don't discount this, Joy. Don't discount this. Like yeah, man, that whole I agree with you. And like, gosh, that movie was just so good. It's uh, man, just it was such a. I remember watching that for the first time back in the '90s, and I was completely confused by it, and I had to watch it a second time, which I think was by design because it jumps around so much in the
Yeah,
film.
because I think the ending is the beginning that I think about. I think that's how he shot it because I remember this is what really got him going. Well, no, it was really Reservoir Dogs that got him going,
Yeah.
and then what was Pulp Fiction before? What was there something in between Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction?
Uh, True Romance and
Okay,
Natural
yeah,
Born Killers. He was attached. So True Romance he wrote, but he didn't direct, and then Natural Born Killers, I believe he
okay,
produced. I'd have to, don't quote me on that. I have to look, but pretty much the order of things. It was Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, and I think Kill Bill was after Jackie Brown.
still holds
And
up, man. Kill Bill still holds up to this
yeah, dude,
day.
those were great movies, man. Kill
I
Bill,
love I love Uma Thurman, man.
Have you seen
Like
Jackie Brown?
you know what? I have seen Jackie Brown. It's been a while. It's been a nah. Don't get me wrong. It's been a while, but I've seen Jackie Brown.
That's like the most overlooked of his films, man. It's actually really good. You know what's funny is I love Tarantino. I don't love everything he's done. Like I wasn't really a big fan of Django.
I
Uh,
was.
and Hateful
I
Eight
just
was not a bad movie. It just wasn't my favorite. But dude,
was that one. Was that one with Denzel? Or was it Denzel or was it?
no. Hateful Eight had Sam Jackson, Kurt Russell,
Oh, I don't know
Jennifer
what.
Jason Leigh, and it was the one where they're in the cabin, and it was sort of a like who done it kind of mystery. It was a beautifully shot movie. It's a good movie. It's just not my favorite of his films. I love Quentin Tarantino is really gifted at creating time travel in his movies,
Oh
and
yeah,
I love his period pieces, his modern day period pieces. I loved Inglorious Bastards. There was something about that movie. I loved it. I loved the Grindhouse. I went and saw that in theaters, and it was one of the greatest movie experiences I've ever had, or theater
right.
experiences. I felt like I had gone back to the 1970s, the way he did that.
Well, you
Um,
want to know why? You want to know why Grindhouse works and why his movies work is because if you know, he's a huge movie fan. Like it shows in the movie.
he has his own
He's
theater,
legit.
man. He owns
Yeah,
original prints of tons of stuff.
yeah. Like he's legit. Like he's legit a fan and a lover of the art, and I think it shows. Even though like I don't like his choices when it comes to overusing the N word, I can't deny that he's a great filmmaker because he knows how to direct the scene. He knows how to he knows how to write dialogue and things that people don't say, like a lot of things that Jules doesn't says a normal person wouldn't say, but the way that he has it written and mapped out and have his act he direct the way he directs his actors, it sounds like something that a person would say. And that's just the art of Tarantino. Like I tell people all the time, he's the king of dialogue. Like
Oh yeah,
Tarantino's the king of dialogue.
you could probably have film school courses just on his movies.
Oh yeah, like
The
him,
guy,
him, and well, I'm trying to think who else do I really respect? I would say him, as far as dialogue goes. Now, people might find it controversial, but I would say you could have a course with Michael Bay, but just on camera, just on camera positioning
Mhm.
and just the way that he directs scenes. Because, like I said, not the best movies, but he can direct the hell out of an action set piece. And I would say Christopher Nolan just for
Agreed. Did you
visuals.
see Dunkirk?
I love Dunkirk. I
Amazing film.
I've seen I saw was Tenant. I enjoyed Tenant. Still don't know what the fuck's going on, but and he's doing an Oppenheimer film, and I can't wait. Like
Yeah,
like it. When you get to know me, I'm a huge history buff, and World War II is one of my favorite
same. Yeah.
periods to do. Now, if I was to ever do make a movie, I want to do a movie based off of Project Overlord. Sorry, we're going off a tangent, but I just want to explain this to people.
Oh, please,
For
man.
people, for people that don't know what Project Overlord was, the U.S. government made a deal with the mafia. They said we'll overlook your crimes if you would just watch over our ports to make sure we don't get attacked by the Japanese, because around that time we got into Pearl Harbor because we got into World War II. Well it was more than just Pearl Harbor, but Pearl Harbor was really the dynamite that set it off. So U.S. they had sent so many people overseas because it was a shortage of soldiers. So they said we don't have nobody to protect our ports. So then they went to mafiosos and capos, and they made a deal with them. And this is actual documented that they made a deal with the mafia to protect our borders.
Yeah. Well, and like Operation Paperclip too, man, where they brought all the Nazi scientists back over
Yeah,
into the U.S. You know, like my grandfather talks about seeing, my grandfather lived in Alabama, most of his life, and I remember him telling me, seeing Warner von Braun around locally.
Right.
My grandfather was working at a theater at the time, and Warner brought his family over to the theater. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy history. Fact is actually stranger than fiction. I mean, history is rife with like some of the classified documents that have come out in the past 50 years. Like people just don't take the time to read it. Like man, there's been some crazy stuff happen in our nation's
I mean,
history.
I don't know if you remember during the pandemic, since there was so much crazy shit going on, the government legit put out there, yeah, there's actual alien spaceships that we got,
Yeah, it's
and
like we just
nobody
don't know. Yeah,
and
we don't know
nobody
what it is.
and
Yeah,
nobody batted an eye because the world was going crazy at that point.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up with just a few more
Sure,
questions.
brother. Let's go, man. What you got?
Now, if you had to make the perfect film, who would be your actors, who would be your director, who would be your producer, and who would be your screenwriter?
I would want to work with Quentin Tarantino, hands down,
Okay.
and George.
So director, producer.
I would want to. That it's tough for me to say one. Like I'll go with Quentin Tarantino because he's still living, but George Romero also would be on my list. I
Hmm.
respect George Romero a lot. Um, I would want to have Quentin Tarantino. Um, I as far as my cast goes, I want Honey Michelle Gregory. I want Charles D. Clark. I want Samuel L. Jackson, John Travolta. Um, Let me think for a second. That's a great question, man. Gosh, when you're on spots, like your brain just goes, and you just can't think of anybody. Um, man, I like Tom Cruise a lot. I put Tom Cruise in the film as well. Uma
Is he gonna
Thurman.
is he gonna be running?
I would have Uma in there, man. I would have oh gosh, Brad Pitt. I definitely have Brad Pitt. I love Brad Pitt in films. Jonah Hill. I throw him in there. Um, that's tough, dude, because there's so many great actors out there that I have a lot of respect for. But I would definitely have Tarantino, man. I would pull in Al Pacino, Robert De Niro as well. I'd love to have Ray Liotta come back. I wish he hadn't passed away. Like I would definitely get
Yeah,
Ray Liotta
man.
in there, man. Like I would love. Samuel Jackson and they're my first. Him and John Travolta are my first two choices because of their dynamic they had in Pulp Fiction. It was so good. I would want to try to find a way to recapture that.
John Travolta just like I don't think people give John Travolta the credit he deserves because
He's an amazing actor.
yeah, like I don't know if you've seen the movie The Fanatic.
Yeah,
It
dude, he did so good in that,
yeah,
and you felt horrible. You felt so bad for him. He
oh
was
my
just a
god.
crazy
Yeah.
nut, dude. Yeah,
Like I said, the movie itself was bad, like technical wise because Fred Durst didn't know what the hell he was doing. But even though some people will say that, like some people like John Travolta, okay, in a way it is kind of problematic. But a thing I liked about John Travolta, he threw himself in that role, and like you said, that very end, it was difficult to get through. It
that was
was
a classic anti-hero. I'll give it to
yeah,
Durst for pulling that off, man, and John Travolta
yeah.
for pulling that off as
I was
well.
just like, I like, oh that it was like sometimes I can look at the screen like because I've seen movies where like people get mutilated and gore and whatnot, but it was just seeing knowing that John Travolta was playing somebody that was on the spectrum, and he was just a big fan of that person, just to see what he got for being a super fan. I felt really bad for John Travolta because he didn't deserve that. I mean, yeah, he killed somebody on accident, but he didn't deserve that.
I would. There are just so many. The actors is hard for me, man. But I would definitely have those people. My cinematographer would be a guy named, I had to look him up, Donald McAlpine. He was the cinematographer on the movie The Edge. And I watched that film recently, and it's one of the most beautifully shot films I've ever seen. Like they use, there's tons of like anamorphic lens flares, and this movie was done in '97. It's just a gorgeous film. And also the cinematographer that did Road to Perdition, I forgot his name. Let me look him up real quick. I would want their lighting team, and I'd want that
Right.
cinematographer. Um, let's see, the cinematographer for them, he's passed away. Conrad L. Hall. I would want him on my team and their entire lighting team. I would want because they do some amazing stuff with lighting in that film. My screenwriter, Tarantino. Still want Tarantino. Um,
I'm just let you know. You just know you're going to get a lot of feet in this movie because you know Tarantino loved them feet.
that's man. I love Tarantino, dude. I hope one day I can meet him. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
he just his movies are just so awesome. I love Tarantino films. I would love to meet him one day. Let's see. Okay, so we got cinematographer covered. We got my lighting team covered. I got my actors. Got my screenwriter. What was the other part of it?
Producer.
My producer. That's a dude. This is a good question. Um, Let me look somebody up real quick. There's a lot of unsung heroes in film because the fact that I have to look up who these people are on specific uh, on specific projects, that really shows there are a lot of unsung heroes in film, man. People that just never get the credit they deserve. You know, they're so behind the scenes. Um, let's see, cast and crew. The production team, the producers on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, um, I would definitely that would be my team right there. That would be my producer team, and that and the guys that did Inglorious Bastards. I would pick them as my producer team. Quentin Tarantino was one of the producers, so I could technically throw him out there again. But uh, that would like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of my favorite Tarantino films, and they that whole team just did an amazing job on that movie. So I would probably say that producer team would be who I'd pick for that.
Okay. Some pretty interesting choice.
Yeah.
Like I said, sounds kind of interesting. I kind of want that movie now.
Have you not seen it yet?
Seeing what?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh no, I've seen no. I was talking about your like your
Oh,
team.
oh, my team. Yeah.
I
Let
kind
me
of want
let
to see
me
that movie.
yeah let me name them all for quick, man. It's a guy named Jeffrey Chan, William Paul Clark, David Heyman, uh,
I've heard of David Heyman.
Georgia. I'm going to mispronounce his name. Candace, Kacandes, Shannon McIntosh, Darren Metropolis, Quentin Tarantino, and Dong Yu um, are the producing team. So yeah, dude, I would totally. They did such a good job on that movie, man. I would totally pick them or the Inglourious Basterds
Now,
team.
now, what type of movie would this be?
I'd probably turn it into a mafia film.
Okay.
Honestly,
Well,
yeah,
well, you know,
I want to do a mafia film one day. I've always I'm not like a big true crime person, but I've always had a fascination with the mob. Like I actually have something signed by Michael Francis.
oh,
Um,
okay.
and for those that don't know who he is, Michael Francis was an actual uh, 70s, 80s era mob guy, and he's walked away from the life now, and he's become a Christian, and he's got a ministry, and but his dad was a guy named Sonny Francis. He was the last surviving golden age mob guy, like that knew Capone. He died at 103 years old. Um, he and that was like a year or so ago that he passed away. Like so, this dude knew Capone, like had met Capone. I mean, like Michael's a really amazing guy. He's very smart, very brilliant. He's got a really cool YouTube channel, and he's just out there trying to help people now. Um, but I would it'd be cool to do like a mob film. I actually now depending on the project, I actually want to do a movie one day that involves actors from different eras of horror being thrown together into a very precarious situation and just watch what happens kind of thing.
Right.
So like that's a project that I would Lon Chaney, Boris Karloff, Vincent Price. Like I would be getting all the classic people, man. Bela Lugosi, like all of these just legends in horror over the past 100 years almost. Like I would get them all together and put them in a really precarious scenario like that. That would be probably a $200 million movie easily just from licensing and stuff like that. So, but that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, but I'd probably do a mob film with this crew.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna tell you mine. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with the director. For my director, I'm gonna get Jordan Peele.
Oh
Now,
yeah, dude. He's man. Let me. Can I say something real quick about?
what's
I'm
up?
I'm so blown away by the range comedians have. Jordan Peele. He's a comedian, but the man can make a horror film that's
Oh
incredible.
yeah.
I mean, dude, Get Out was amazing, and Ricky Gervais. If you ever watched that show he did called Afterlife, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, I watched that.
Oh my
Was
gosh,
yeah, I've seen Afterlife.
Oscar worthy performance that man. I'm so blown. I'm always really just blown away by the range these comedians have and their talents. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but I just when you said Jordan
Oh no,
Peele,
you
I'm like,
good.
he's amazing. Jordan Peele's amazing, dude.
So Jordan Peele. Now, like I said, mine's gonna be a weird, crazy combination. Director Jordan Peele,
Okay.
producer Peter Jackson,
Okay.
screenwriter. Let me get his name right. He Daniel Kwan. He did Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay.
Now, as far as cinematography goes, oh, that's gonna be kind of hard. Uh, let me look this up because
I'm writing your team down as you say it. By the way.
hold up. Cinematographer for oh Greg Fraser from the Batman that just came out earlier. Now, okay, so I got my screenwriter, producer, director, and cinematographer. Now for the cast, Michelle Yeoh is going to be one of the leads. Um, if you've seen the raid, you know his name is Uwais, the main character from the raid. I gotta get I gotta get Donnie Yen.
Oh man,
Just
dude. Yeah.
just
Dunyan's
because
amazing.
and just because I love this man, I don't know how he's gonna fit in it, but
Have you
I was
seen
gonna
the
pick.
Man films?
Oh yeah, I love it, man.
Oh, dude, he's so good in those.
Those films are the reason why I started to learn why I practice Wing Chun now,
Oh, no
just because of
kidding.
those. Yeah. Now let's see, and like just from judging from what you're gonna hear from these next two actors, you're gonna know what type of film I want to do. But I'm gonna put Denzel and Keanu Reeves in this film. Um, I would say Jet Li or Jackie Chan, but they're just too old. They're just too old. Now, if I can get them when they're younger, yes. But also, last but not least, well, actually, two people. Michael Jai White, of course. I love Michael Jai White, and uh, what is her name? Maggie. Not Maggie Q. Even though that'd be a good choice. What was her name from Agents of Shield? The Asian lady, Agents of Shield. What was her name? Uh, Ming Na Wen. That she would be the last person I put in my movie, and you can already tell by this. This is just going to be a bombastic action epic. But that's mine. Hollywood, get on that. Make sure you give me my money when you do that, and that's mine.
I have one other person I want to add to my cast, and it's Idris Elba.
Oh, Idris. Oh man, I wanted to add Idris so much. Like I already got too. First of all, I was. I was going through in my head. I'm gonna be spending like 500 million on just the cast
Just
alone.
to cast alone, yeah, dude, all the perks and stuff. Yeah, yeah, you're in trouble, dude. Have you heard that he may be the next James Bond? I'm hoping
I
that's the
hope so,
case.
man. Look,
He's
I
gonna be
hope so.
so good.
I hope so. But then I always make a joke. Uh, like unrealistically, like, if you be realistic, that it wouldn't work just because I always made this joke. He'd be going to the bar and he'd be like, oh, like, can I get a martini shake and not stirred? He's like, oh, okay. Like, my name's James. My name's Bond. Yeah, James Bond. We know. Like, how'd you know? Just looks at the colors of his skin. Lucky guess. Lucky guess. Like I said, I would do a parody with Idris Elba, him being James Bond, and just him be the only black person in that film.
He would be so good in that part, though, man. I
Oh
I,
no,
I love Idris. He's so great.
man, he was. To be honest, even though like people say the Fast and Furious films they're bad movies, to me I feel like they know what they are, and I think that's what makes them good. They know what they
Yeah,
are.
that's a good point, dude. It's like we know what we are. Just
Because I tell
accept us
people,
where we are.
I tell people all the time, like, why don't they get back to racing? I'm like, y'all remember that movie to Need for Speed? That's why they're not going to go back to street racing because it wouldn't fucking work
Yeah,
anymore.
fail. It's not 2003 anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but man, him in Hobbs and Shaw, I was enjoying him as I was enjoying him at Hobbs and Shaw, and then plus he just got that smooth British accent. Like,
He does a really good American accent as well. I
oh
just
yeah,
dude, he just there's you get these actors sometimes you just can't help but love them, and like Idris is one of them, man. He did an episode of Hot Ones that I watched recently that was really
oh
good.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. He's a character, man. I mean, just even as a person, you can tell he's a character, you know.
And he does a lot of favors too. Apparently, like he does, like he won't ask for big money for certain roles. Like he'll act like if he likes the project, he won't ask for a lot, which I think is kind of cool. Which is
Yeah.
kind of I think Hollywood's missing is everybody wants the big money. Because I remember even Batman Robin still one of my worst comic book movies of all time. But then, like, because one thing I hated was Arnold Schwarzenegger and the goddamn ice puns. But then when I heard how much he was making, I say, yeah, for 60 million, I'd make all those ice puns too.
You know what though, man? Arnold, dude, everybody makes fun of Arnold. He's a brilliant guy. He's incredibly smart, and he came to this country with nothing. And he gave a commencement address to a college recently. And the point he made is there's no such thing as a self-made man. And I think that's very wise to call it
Right.
out. People get to where they're successful because people believe in them and help them. No one
Hmm.
makes it by themselves. Like, you know, and I'll take it back to filmmaking here. I'm sitting here talking to you today because of my team.
Right.
At the end of the day, man, I owe this to my team. You know, yes, I have a vision. Yes, I'm making a film, but I can't make that film without them. So really, right now, I'm standing on their shoulders.
Right.
You know, it's the team. The team is the most important asset you have as a filmmaker, man. You know, and it's and what's cool about independent film, it's becoming very tribal, I think, and maybe it's always been this way, but I'm seeing it like you're starting to see these small production companies pop up, and
Right.
they get populated with people, and then you just start seeing them crank out projects. You know, so you have these really great films that have the same actors and actresses over and over and over again, and it works. You know, like Acrostar Films is the one I've been coordinating with recently. You know, the movie I'm working on now, it's with them, and that's run by a guy named Steve Herman, and his producer is a woman named Ann Myrna. And he's got this group of people that are, man, I fell in love with them. Like I had them on my podcast, and I just fell in love with them. Like there's just something about them you just can't help but love the people. You know,
Right.
and it's and I think I see it happening a little bit with my team as well. Like, you know, these people just become your family, and you
Right.
can't help it. You know.
Right. And but I had so much fun talking to you tonight,
Yeah,
man.
dude. Jason,
Not,
let me just tell you, you're a brilliant man. Like
man, well, thank you, man.
I mean, dude, you're a brilliant guy. You're incredibly sharp and intelligent and witty, And dude, your knowledge of film and your passion and your drive are like you're gonna do great things, my friend. Like I really I'm excited to see what you're gonna do and the legacy you're gonna leave. It's gonna be amazing.
Man, I appreciate you. And right back at you, man. Like, I can see that you really have a passion for film, which is needed because a lot of these directors and big Hollywood bigwigs, they do it not for the passion, but for the money. And I just feel like you're going to put out great things. I can't wait to see this film that you're working on.
I appreciate that, man. I'll make sure you see it, dude. You're on my list of
Oh,
people.
man.
I'll make sure you see it.
Man, I can't wait, man. And also we got to get you on the Sunday review show one of these days, man, so you can just talk movies with us and just be stupid with us because that's
Oh,
one
yeah,
thing we
dude,
like.
I love. Trust me, I love to just be an idiot. Like it's great to just. I'm a very silly person in real life. Like, what time do you guys normally run it?
Oh, we try to go late because like we try to go like at 5, but like everybody wasn't available at 5. Then we tried at 7. Some people can make it, but then we just went for 8 because apparently 8 is like the best time for people, I guess.
Well,
Because I
just
guess
let me know, dude. I'll be there.
yeah, man. Like I said, hey, spots always open. Like this weekend, I don't know what you're doing, but we reviewing the boys and that good old boy Thor: Love and Thunder.
That'd be an interesting episode. Jason, I appreciate you having me on, brother. I really do,
Man,
man.
I appreciate you. And before we get up out of here, man, tell people where they can find you at, and
Yeah,
tell them what they can be looking forward to in the future.
yeah, man. So Facebook is the place I'm most active. I apparently look like a young Francis Ford Coppola. That was pointed out to me recently, and I actually did a side by side photo, and I do look pretty much exactly like him
Hold
when I was
up,
younger. No,
hold up.
I've already got a side by side for you, man. Let me pull it up here. Um, my Steve pointed it out to me actually. I was like, wow, I really do look like the guy. Let's
Hold,
see.
hold, let me see, let me see, Francis Ford Coppola. Oh wow, you know what? I kind of see it.
Dude,
Wait,
if you're looking at the photo, I think you're looking at. I'm gonna show you a side by side. It's really gonna shock you, man.
hold on. I'm gonna just share my screen and just show people what I'm looking at. But it's a black and white. But I kind of see it. I, I, I kind of see it. Like if your hair would, like I said, all thing you need is just just dye your beard black. Got a little comb. Is that a comb over? I can't tell. Wait, let me see. Well, not a little comb over. It's more of a well. It has a part.
Well, let me
Like
show you. Let
it,
me let me let me show you this. You ready? Can you make my
yeah.
screen a little bit bigger?
Hold on. Let me see. Let me stop sharing. Man,
Everything's the reverse.
man. Oh yeah, yeah. Most definitely. Hey. If they ever do a biopic of that man,
I
you
should
better
play
get.
it,
Yeah,
dude.
man. You
I'm not
gotta.
bad. I'll audition. I'll absolutely audition for it. Yeah, heck yeah, dude. But yeah, Facebook's where I'm most active. I am very accessible. I'm not one of those people. Uh, feel free to add me on Facebook if you have questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. Do me a favor if you send me a message. Don't say hello. How are you? Actually, tell me what you need because I get you get a lot of scam messages and they all start out hello. How are you? So do me a favor. Send me just one long thing, what it is, your question or whatever, and I'm more than happy to try to help. I have a Twitter page. I'm very sporadic on Twitter. Sometimes I'm on it, sometimes I'm not. That's at BP4Christ. Um, I do have a Dawn Journey Productions Twitter page. It's at Dawn Journey Prod. We have a Dawn Journey Productions Facebook, and there's a Dawn Journey Productions Instagram as well. I need to do more with them. I haven't done a whole lot with them yet. There's also a group page for Blood Repentance. It's the official Blood Repentance film group, is what it's called. I try to post semi regularly in it, just little fun stuff like what's your favorite horror film, or like one of my things recently was like write a trailer for your life, but have it begin with like in a world where dot 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 and but yeah, Facebook is definitely where I'm at the most. And if anybody has any questions about filmmaking or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll try to get to you.
All right. And y'all know where to find me. You can find me at the Facebook group Bring the Popcorn, where we just have discussions, post funny memes. I might start doing polls with you guys to start doing bad movie reviews just because I want to see what y'all want me to review and what you want our team to review. And if you want to come on and be a guest one day, hey, I'm all for it. The more the merrier. But I'm also going to put in the comment section for you guys our link tree because we have a lot of links. We have a lot of links, and I don't have enough breath to say them all. And our merchandise stores there, T Public, where you can find all your good Bring the Popcorn merchandise goodness. But yeah, man, Brian, it's been fun and
Absolutely, brother.
long. We y'all, just a quick side note, we did the live format on a whim. Like this was spontaneous. We were just going to record at first, but we just decided, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah. I literally was like 30 seconds before we started. It was like, I was like, I just like, let's do it. You're like, you want to do it live? I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah. So it was a 30-second decision for sure.
And thank everybody that has commented, and I hopefully gain more people to the podcast fam. You know, got to get that fam growing. Throw that barbecue. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But enough of talk. We've been talking for 2 hours and 45 minutes. I know y'all probably want to go to bed. So just remember when you come to these reviews and interviews, just remember to always bring the popcorn. All right, guys, we are out of here.
Bye, everybody.